Chapter 590. AI knew that what she said just now was actually the result of considering the situation in the most dangerous direction. Even she himself didn't necessarily think of this when he came here. But as she began to report to the fourth Hokage, all the known information was constantly flashing in Shi's mind. Gradually, she couldn't help but form such a terrifying guess in his mind. And AI also became more serious because of Shi's guess. After all, Akatsuki can be said to be the #1 public enemy in the ninja world, and it can also be said that they are an organization in the ninja world. Once such an organization really attacks the Cloud Village, even if the fourth Raikage is confident, he can't help but worry. No matter what the reason is, such a strange situation happened in our Cloud Village, we can't take it lightly. If this is really the prelude of the Akatsuki's attack, then we can't relax. Akatsuki's goal is very clear. In fact, our village now has the Hachibi column force, my brother Killer Bee. No matter what, we have to be ready to fight. AI was about to give an order to Shi, but suddenly, a loud thunder sounded in the sky outside the Raikage's building. Such a sound directly suppressed all the words in AI's mouth, not because AI was afraid of thunder like other children, but because accompanied by the thunder was a very powerful lightning-released chakra aura, and for AI, this aura was also very familiar. Because this aura belonged to the former Raikage of the Cloud Village, who is also AI's father, Sandame Raikage, who also has the name AI. AI didn't even have the thought to give an order, he just seriously felt the chakra aura coming from outside the building. This is impossible. How can this chakra aura reappear in the world? The dead can't be resurrected, this is almost an immutable truth. But now this scene, and the strong and familiar chakra aura he felt undoubtedly told the fourth Raikage that his father has really appeared near him, and even released his huge chakra without any concealment. Father. Without even saying a word to Shi, directly broke through the window of his office, jumped out, and rushed towards the place where the aura was coming from. Killer Bee, the Hachibi's Jinchuriki, who had just returned to the Cloud Village for a short rest, also noticed this familiar yet strange aura. Killer Bee was not AI's biological brother, but the two of them were closer than real brothers. He was also very clear about the former Raikage's chakra aura. She was very clear about her brother's character. Out of the memory of her father and the sudden appearance of the chakra aura of the previous Raikage, her older brother will definitely go and investigate. It's too dangerous to go alone, and as the Raikage, he must not have any accidents. Thinking of this, Killer Bee immediately put away his weapon and rushed towards the place where the chakra aura was coming from. Compared to Killer Bee, who didn't use his tailed beast's power, there was no doubt that AI was much stronger. After activating the lightning release chakra mode, AI also burst out with incredible speed, like a thunder. He directly arrived at the place where his father's chakra aura was coming from. He had dark golden hair and a beard, wearing a sleeveless silver upper body armor, black trousers, and a dark red belt around his waist. This person was his father, the former Raikage AI. Although he saw his father after so many years, at this moment, the fourth Raikage's eyes were full of anger. Because at this moment, his father's skin was full of very ugly cracks, and even the color of his skin had turned dark gray. His eyeballs were completely black, and they were full of dull emotions. It felt like he was made into a marionette. His father, the eternal pride in his heart, was manipulated in this way at this moment after his death. Whether it was the Raikage of the Cloud Village or as a child, he couldn't accept such a situation. Edo Tensei? Looking at the rather strange characteristics of his father, the fourth Raikage quickly thought of this ninjutsu name that he deliberately remembered when he received the report of the Wood Leaf Collapse plan. This ninjutsu was created by the second Hokage and perfected by the Wood Leaf ninja Orochimaru. It has the taboo power to summon the dead back to the world. But from the information he received, Orochimaru has been dead for a long time. In the end, who actually joined the Akatsuki, helped the Akatsuki to perform the Edo Tensei, and even stole his father's DNA to support the use of the Edo Tensei? I couldn't help but began to look at the figures of several people standing next to his father. He was wearing a wave-like mask decorated with 3 tomo, revealing a 3 tomo Sharingan and a Rinnegan in his eyes. He was wearing a navy blue robe and carrying the iconic round fan of the Uchiha clan on his back. Although he didn't speak, the 4th Raikage could still judge from the illusory and solid aura that this person should be the man who appeared at the 5 Kage gathering who called himself Uchiha Madara. Behind the man who called himself Uchiha Madara stood 2 figures, one of which the 4th Raikage was very familiar with. After all, after the declaration of war, almost all the original members of the Akatsuki were investigated. This person who was shrouded in Nepenthe should be the one who didn't show up in the Akatsuki, but was very good at sneaking in. As for the other person who was completely wrapped in a grey robe, and the shadow of the hood completely covered his face, the 4th Raikage had no way to distinguish who this guy was. But this guy was constantly emitting a cold aura, which made the 4th Raikage couldn't help but think of a person. The former Woodleaf Sannin, the Woodleaf ninja who had already passed away, Orochimaru. So you're the one? Blaspheme my father's soul that has already rested. You, now pay the price for your actions. Chapter 591. Alchemist Pocket, who was shrouded in a large grayish-white robe, emitted a somewhat sinister laugh. The hood with the snake-eye pattern that completely covered his face was also slowly lifted by Alchemist Pocket. Medicine Master's Pocket's grayish-white hair and his pale face with snake scale patterns appeared in front of the 4th Raikage AI. Isn't that Orochimaru? Looking at Kabuto's appearance, which was obviously inconsistent with the description of Orochimaru, Yondaime Raikage muttered to himself. Although Yondaime Raikage's voice wasn't loud, Yakushi could still hear it. As the former right-hand man of Orochimaru, although he didn't hate him for following Orochimaru in the past, Yakushi obviously didn't want others to associate him with Orochimaru. Even if all the power and achievements he had now were actually plagiarized from Orochimaru's legacy. Orochimaru-sama is my mentor, but I have surpassed him. My name is Yakushi. After saying his name, Yakushi immediately made hand seals to activate the talisman he transplanted in the mind of Sandaime Raikage. Sandaime Raikage, who had been standing in the same place, suddenly had a large amount of chakra surging on his body, and lightning jumped on Sandaime Raikage's body, and even faintly formed an armor-like appearance. This is Sandaime Raikage's strongest shield, the lightning armor. Looking at his dark-skinned father who was wrapped in lightning armor, the 4th generation Raikage AI's eyes flashed with a trace of reminiscence. This was his father, the father he relied on since childhood, the father who risked his life to fight against 10,000 rock ninjas for 3 days and 3 nights in the most dangerous moment of the Cloud Village, the father who died of exhaustion. He was the father who he absolutely didn't want anyone to taint him in the slightest. Father, although I know that you are not the real you now, I will grow. I will let you see my growth. I am not the little kid who followed you behind and could only be protected by you. I am the 4th Raikage of the Cloud Village, I am AI. The 4th Raikage mobilized all the chakra in his body, and almost instantaneously entered the lightning chakra mode. The azure blue lightning was also attached to the 4th Raikage's body, and similar to the 3rd Raikage, it formed a shape similar to that of an armor. However, it may be because Sandaime Raikage was in the Edo Tensei mode and was fully controlled, so compared to the lightning armor on his body, AI's chakra armor was obviously more dazzling. Do you need my help? Black Zetsu, who was standing beside Uchiha Obito, slowly walked to his side and asked softly. Even just by looking at the appearance of the lightning chakra armor worn by the 4th Raikage and the 3rd Raikage, it's not difficult to see that the 4th Raikage at this moment is much stronger than the 3rd Raikage summoned by the Edo Tensei. If Uchiha Obito really wanted to defeat the 4th Raikage, then just relying on the Edo Tensei to summon the 3rd Raikage who can't fully display the abilities of the 4th Raikage is far from enough. Obito heard Black Zetsu's question and said indifferently, "Don't worry, isn't the protagonist of this play not here yet? Now is not the time for us to make a move, although the 4th Raikage is indeed stronger than Sandaime Raikage. But the battle between such ninjas who are proficient in taijutsu is not so simple, it's enough to support our protagonist. The protagonist Obito was talking about was naturally the Hachibi column force of the Cloud Village, and the younger brother of the fourth Raikage, Killer Bee, who lived in the Cloud Village. The purpose of all his actions was to collect all the tailed beasts and then summon the Jubi. Defeating the Cloud Hidden Village was just a small trick to achieve his goal. After ordering Sandaime Raikage to attack the fourth Raikage, Kabuto was also worried that the fourth Raikage would suddenly attack him, so he jumped to Uchiha Obito's side. Uchiha Obito's words were also heard by Kabuto, and he was even more vigilant about Uchiha Obito's gloomy character. The current Uchiha Obito was actually somewhat similar to Orochimaru. As long as you are valuable to him, even if you do something slightly excessive, Uchiha Obito will be lenient to you. But if you are no longer useful to Uchiha Obito, but you still want to stir up trouble in front of Uchiha Obito, then you have to be prepared to be obliterated by Uchiha Obito. I must find a way to strengthen my control over the Edo Tensei, so that I can control more people who have passed away. I don't want to be a useless tool that can be abandoned at will in anyone's eyes. Medicine Master told himself seriously in his heart, but a woman's figure suddenly appeared in Medicine Master Do's mind. The Edo Tensei jutsu he is currently using was actually researched and perfected by Orochimaru, and the nature of Orochimaru's chakra has become very different from that of ordinary people after several self-modifications by him. If it weren't for Kabuto secretly signed a summoning contract with the Earth Dragon Cave and inherited a very powerful Sage Mode in the Earth Dragon Cave, and through Sage Mode, he integrated a part of Orochimaru's chakra, it would be wishful thinking for Kabuto to learn a forbidden technique like Edo Tensei that can reverse life and death. Bang! Just when Kabuto was still thinking about how to make his Edo Tensei more powerful, Sandaime Raikage and Yondaime Raikage collided with each other on the battlefield. The collision between the two powerful Kage-level ninja jutsu directly made the flat ground become more bumpy. Roar! Whether it is Yondaime Raikage or Sandaime Raikage, at this moment, they didn't use any particularly gorgeous techniques, they just attacked each other with their bodies that have become abnormally strong after being stimulated by Raiton chakra. Although they didn't directly knock down the enemy with a punch, the battle of punches fully reflected a kind of violent aesthetics. Chapter 592. The battle continued slowly like this. Originally, the fourth Raikage AI still had some rationality in his heart, but as the battle became more and more intense, his battle maniac characteristics were directly revealed. At this moment, Sandaime Raikage didn't have any other distracting thoughts in his mind, he just wanted to defeat his father in front of him. On the side of the battlefield, Uchiha Obito, Kabuto, and Black Zetsu were watching the battle between the father and son coldly. But at this moment, Obito's heart was faintly impatient, because the battle between Sandaime Raikage and Sandaime Raikage has been going on for nearly 10 minutes. For a ninja, 10 minutes of battle is already a limit. After all, ninjas mainly use ninjutsu to enhance their combat effectiveness, but after all, a person's chakra and physical strength are limited. Such a high-intensity battle can only last for 10 minutes, and most ninjas can't even last 10 minutes if they don't have enough stamina. Big Brother AIN. Raikage? Finally, Killer Bee arrived at the place where the fourth Raikage and the third Raikage were fighting. Both of them were very important to Killer Bee, and they were very familiar with each other. Seeing the father and son fighting so fiercely, Killer Bee couldn't help but feel a strong sense of excitement. Killer Bee didn't even have the strange accent that he usually had when he was talking. Similar to Sandaime Raikage, after carefully observing Sandaime Raikage's state, Killer Bee's heart was full of anger. Someone actually blasphemed the soul of a person who was very important to him? He had to let him know how much he regretted what he had done. Hachibi. Please. While communicating with the Hachibi in his body, Killer Bee began to slowly mobilize the powerful chakra belonging to the Hachibi. After following Killer Bee for so long, Hachibi naturally knew how terrifying Killer Bee was when he was serious. Moreover, Sandaime Raikage was indeed a strong man worthy of respect. After all, he was stopped by such a man when he went berserk. It was because of this man that he and Killer Bee became such a close partner. Do it. By dash. Hachibi seemed to be helping Killer Bee to vent his anger. He directly connected his chakra with Killer Bee's body, and a huge amount of Biju's chakra directly shrouded Killer Bee's body. Oh! Black Zetsu and Uchiha Obito, who had been watching the battle, suddenly moved their eyes away from Sandame Reikage and Sandame Reikage. When Killer Bee didn't use his powerful chakra, Black Zetsu and Uchiha Obito thought that they didn't notice the battle between the two Reikages. But now, Killer Bee's thick and violent chakra was obvious to people like Black Zetsu and Obito. Black Zetsu, now start mobilizing the White Zetsu army to block this place. You must cooperate with the White Zetsu army. Before everything is settled, you must not let the people of Cloud Village come here to support 4th Reikage and Hachibi Column Force. After the spore attack of the White Zetsu army, not only did 1/3 of the ninjas and 2/3 of the civilians in the Cloud Village fall into a coma, but it also restrained the manpower of the Cloud Village. Now, the number of Cloud ninjas that can support the 4th Reikage is extremely limited. At this time, with the advantage of the number of White Zetsu's army and Black Zetsu's personal strength, it's not a problem to block all the Cloud ninjas that come to support the 4th Reikage. Even if there is an accident in the process, Kabuto still has 2 cards in his hands, the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn. No matter what happens, with the strength of the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn, they can completely control the situation. Such a situation is the death trap created by Uchiha Obito for the Hachibi Jinchuriki and Yondame Reikage. After hearing Obito's order, Black Zetsu didn't say anything and immediately dived into the ground to carry out Obito's order. Obito himself used the power of his Manjikyu Sharingan, and after his figure became slightly illusory, he reappeared beside Killer Bee. Using the strange eye power contained in the Rinnegan mixed with his own chakra, a black iron rod directly appeared in the hands of Uchiha Obito. The black iron rod containing a part of the special power of the Rinnegan has an extremely strong suppressive effect on chakra. It is just the right weapon to fight against a ninja like Column Force who relies heavily on chakra. Without using any subtle moves, Uchiha Obito sent the black iron rod in his hand towards Killer Bee. Looking at Uchiha Obito's almost unskillful attack, Killer Bee didn't relax his vigilance. After all, Uchiha Obito's eyes are 2 of the 3 major dojutsu of the ninja world, Sharingan and Rinnegan. The huge chakra of the Hachibi continued to condense on Killer Bee, 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 Killer Bee. One of Killer Bee's hands was holding the shark skin he got from the Kisan ghost shark, the other hand was holding a long saber, and a short saber in his mouth. Killer Bee stretched out 5 octopus tentacles from his back and held the remaining 5 ninja swords tightly. Obito saw that Killer Bee had completely entered the battle state, but he still didn't change his seemingly simple move. He still calmly stabbed the black iron rod in his hand towards Killer Bee's position. However, the closer he got to Killer Bee, the more Obito's attention was attracted to the huge muscles in Killer Bee's hand. Through the Rinnegan, Obito felt a very important aura from the Killer Bee, 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 Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee. After making up his mind, Uchiha Obito's black iron rod immediately became faster. Chapter 593. Originally, the black iron rod in Obito's hand was casually thrown towards Killer Bee, but when Obito retracted his arm, it instantly became fierce. It was as if a venomous snake had suddenly discovered its prey. It bared its venomous fangs and directly bit its prey. Sure enough. Looking at Obito's sudden increase in speed and his imposing manner, Killer Bee said in his heart. As the current leader of Akatsuki, Killer Bee doesn't believe that Uchiha Obito is an idiot. Although Uchiha Obito's attack has many flaws in the eyes of a ninja like Killer Bee who is proficient in taijutsu, but it's still remarkable. It's normal for a Kage-level ninja to have such a taijutsu level. Abdomen? As a ninja who is proficient in kenjutsu, Killer Bee was almost at the moment when Obito launched his attack. Killer Bee has already judged where Obito's attack will land. His muscles all over his body tightened, whether it's the Sharingan in his hand or the Hachibi's chakra condensed tentacles on his back, all of them slightly moved towards his abdomen to protect him. Killer Bee's judgment was right, the black iron staff in Obito's hand was indeed attacking his abdomen. Everything was as he expected, the Sharingan in his hand blocked the black iron staff in Obito's hand. The katana in his other hand directly slashed towards Obito's head that was covered with the gray mask. The 5 octopus tentacles behind Killer Bee also controlled the katana to attack Obito's vital points. A total of 6 attacks were about to hit Obito's body. Lightning release chakra wrapped around the katana, increasing the attack power of the katana and greatly increasing the attack speed of the katana. Looking at the katana that Killer Bee used to attack him, Obito showed a slight smile under the mask that covered his face. For an ordinary ninja, falling into such a crisis will definitely lead to death. But Obito is not an ordinary ninja. The Manjikyu Sharingan in Obito's right eye is accompanied by a powerful dojutsu called Kamui. Lowering his head slightly to cover his Manjikyu Sharingan, Kamui was activated. His figure suddenly became a bit illusory. The figure that was rushing towards Killer Bee directly passed through Killer Bee's body as if it didn't exist. Whether it was Killer Bee's muscles that were used to defend against the attack of the black iron staff, or the sharp attacks launched by the 7 ninja swords in his mouth, they all directly passed through Obito's illusory figure. Damn it! Killer Bee didn't know that Obito has such a space ability, but he didn't expect Obito's space ability to be so strange and convenient. After realizing his mistake, Killer Bee immediately began to rotate his body, and the powerful chakra that was originally wrapped around Killer Bee's body became even more powerful. After all, when there is enough chakra, it will have a certain tendency to materialize, at least it can reduce the disadvantage in the battle and buy some time for himself to react. After the 2 figures crossed each other, Obito's reaction was naturally faster than Killer Bee. 1 step ahead, naturally, he will be ahead. Killer Bee's body hasn't fully turned, and even his chakra hasn't fully erupted. The black iron rod in Obito's hand quickly stabbed towards Killer Bee's shoulder that was holding the shark muscle. Killer Bee's strong physical fitness and majestic chakra have become as thin as paper at this moment, easily broken by the black iron staff. The black iron staff itself has a part of the special power of the Rinnegan. When it pierced into Killer Bee's body, a strong pain directly went through Killer Bee's nerves and directly into his brain. The severe pain directly made Killer Bee's body produce an instinctive reaction, and his hand that was tightly holding Killer Bee's shoulder also involuntarily loosened. The huge Killer Bee's shoulder fell directly on the ground, loosening the black iron staff in his hand. Obito rolled on the ground and picked up the Killer Bee's shoulder. Quickly widening the distance between him and Killer Bee, Obito finally had time to look at the shark muscles that had been restless since he caught them. Seemingly aware that the person who held it in his hand has stopped moving, Killer Bee's shoulder also began to move. Opening its ferocious mouth, rotating its huge body, Killer Bee's shoulder directly wanted to swallow this master that it didn't recognize. Looking at Killer Bee's movement, Obito didn't feel that it was too troublesome. Staring at the Killer Bee's shoulder in his hand, the powerful deterrence of Manjikyu Sharingan and Rinnegan was directly applied to Killer Bee's shoulder. The Killer Bee's shoulder, which was still showing its fangs and claws just now, directly softened at this moment. Like a docile kitten, it was directly held in Obito's hand. Obito slowly sent his chakra into the Killer Bee's shoulder, feeling the powerful chakra stored inside the Killer Bee's shoulder. His eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. Sure enough, the Kismet ghost shark didn't do nothing except pass on some incomplete information. At this moment, the Hachibi's chakra stored in the Killer Bee's shoulder is actually enough to support the minimum level of awakening the Gedomazo. With the Killer Bee's shoulder, Obito can completely absorb the Hachibi's chakra stored in the Killer Bee's shoulder into the Gedomazo. The only thing that hasn't been collected now is the Nine Tails' chakra, but Uchiha Obito also has his own plan regarding this. The Golden Horn and Silver Horn summoned by Kabuto through Edo Tensei are not as simple as combat power. If he really wants to awaken the Nine Tails, he can absorb the chakra stored in the Golden Horn and Silver Horn's body by devouring the Nine Tails' flesh and blood into the Geto Mazo. In fact, as long as Obito is willing, he can summon the Jubi. But such an incomplete Jubi, Obito doesn't really think that he can really perform the perfect Tsukuyomi world, so if possible, Obito still hopes that he can collect a complete Jubi as soon as possible, and then summon a complete Jubi to realize his Eye of the Moon project. Chapter 594. The fourth Raikage, who was fighting Sandaime Raikage, suddenly felt a throbbing feeling in his heart. He increased the amount of chakra in his hand and directly forced his father to retreat. He quickly looked back at the place where Killer Bee's chakra erupted. Killer Bee's shoulder with a black iron rod stuck in it and the gurgling blood was so conspicuous. Whether it was Killer Bee's expression or physical condition, he didn't look so good. What the hell am I doing? Seeing his younger brother in such a state, the fervor in AI's eyes due to the battle faded a lot. The purpose of coming here was to investigate why his father's chakra suddenly appeared here, but after seeing his father being controlled by the Edo Tensei, he completely lost his mind. AI was very familiar with his adopted brother. Obviously, Killer Bee was worried that he would fall into a trap on impulse, so he chased after him regardless of the fact that he had just returned to the ninja village and didn't have time to rest. But when Killer Bee arrived here, he had completely fallen into a battle frenzy. He let his younger brother face the strong man who called himself Uchiha Madara alone, while he was fighting his father for his meaningless vanity. After Sandaime Raikage was repelled by A, he immediately attacked the place where A was. But at this moment, A didn't have the intention to fight his father who was born with Edo Tensei. "I'm sorry, father, now is not the time to be nostalgic." Looking at Sandaime Raikage rushing towards him, the fourth Raikage's eyes flashed with a trace of decisiveness. Although it seemed that Sandaime Raikage and the fourth Raikage were fighting fiercely, in fact, the fourth Raikage still instinctively held back a little during the battle. After all, although the person who is fighting with him now has no self-consciousness, he is still his father, the father who sacrificed his life for the Cloud Village. Looking at her father's figure, looking at her father's ninjutsu, the fourth Raikage subconsciously didn't want her father to disappear like this. If he could watch for a while longer, he would definitely do so, but now, his sworn brother, Killer Bee, was in a dangerous situation. Although his father was very important to him, after all, his father was already dead. His sworn brother, Killer Bee, was also his family. He absolutely could not give up. Such a simple choice was difficult for the fourth-generation Raikage AI, but it wasn't complicated. Raitun Ninjutsu. Looking at the Sandaime Raikage, the fourth Raikage AI roared and directly jumped into the air. The enormous lightning release chakra that was originally wrapped around AI's body had already accumulated to the maximum. The fourth-generation Lightning Shadow AI was now almost completely wrapped in blue-white lightning. Lightning Abuse Level Chio Dance. Almost all of the chakra on her body was condensed in her hand blade, and the powerful force was directly added to the body of Sandaime Raikage, whose strength has decreased because of the Edo Tensei. The powerful lightning continued to move around the body of Sandaime Raikage, and pieces of debris fell from the body of Sandaime Raikage. In the end, the Edo Tensei's body couldn't completely withstand the fourth Raikage AI's lightning ninjutsu, lightning abuse level Chio dance, and the Edo Tensei's body directly exploded and disappeared. Although the Edo Tensei won't disappear because of such injuries, after all, it still takes a certain amount of time and a lot of chakra to recover, so at this moment, Sandaime Raikage has lost the ability to fight. Yakushi Kabuto was originally concentrating on controlling Sandaime Raikage to fight against AI, but when Sandaime Raikage directly turned into dust under the attack of AI, this situation was a great burden for Yakushi Kabuto, and his originally sickly cheeks became even paler. The fourth-generation Raikage coldly looked at Yakushi Kabuto, although he wanted to directly rush to Yakushi Kabuto's side and kill him for playing with the souls of the dead, there were more important things for him to do at this moment. Ha! Activating his chakra with all his strength, A used almost all of his chakra to increase his speed. Like a bolt of lightning, A directly rushed towards Killer Bee's location. When he came to Killer Bee's side, A didn't say a word. He directly grabbed Killer Bee in his arms and rushed to the periphery of the battlefield with Killer Bee. Seeing A rushing to the periphery of the battlefield with Killer Bee, Yakushi Kabuto immediately came to Obito's side and said very respectfully, "Sama, we need." Although Yakushi Kabuto only said half of his words, Obito already stretched out his hand to stop Yakushi Kabuto from continuing. "I know you want to ask me if I want to catch up with them, but I have my own arrangements. If we want to keep the 4th generation Raikage and the Hachibi column force here, we need to pay a huge price, and it's not worth it. Since it's so meaningless, it's better to let them go. Now it's not us who need to worry, it's the 5 great ninja villages. Although we used a surprise attack this time, after all, we defeated one of the 5 great ninja villages in a very short time. Now it's not us who are nervous, but the 5 great ninja villages, because they are standing on the opposite side of us." Although Obito said so to Yakushi Kabuto, at this moment, Obito didn't think so in his heart. The current Akatsuki doesn't need to continue to attack other ninja villages like this. After all, such an attack can only be done once, and the effect of continuing to do so is very limited. What Obito wants to do now is to stay in the Cloud Village, and use the special terrain of the Cloud Village to fight the other 4 ninja villages. With the White Zetsu army and the strong Edo Tensei, Obito is confident that he can compete with the 5 great ninja villages. As for defeating the 5 great ninja villages and unifying the ninja world, such a boring thing is not what Obito wants to do. Chapter 595. The Akatsuki attacked the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning and defeated the Cloud Village directly. A large number of ninjas and civilians fell into a coma. The 4th Dame Raikage AI cooperated with the Hachibi column force Killer Bee to lead the remaining forces in the village to evacuate. It was like a spark on a dry grassland, and almost in a blink of an eye, it directly evolved into a prairie fire. Is the Akatsuki so powerful? Since the news of the war came out, almost all countries and ninjas had a bit of contempt and relaxation in their hearts. After all, the Akatsuki is just an organization from a small country, and the resources and power it can control are absolutely not comparable to the 5 great villages behind the 5 major countries. What's more, in order to deal with the Akatsuki, the 5 great villages have united and formed an offensive and defensive alliance. How can such a small organization like the Akatsuki be comparable to such power? People will always deliberately ignore things they don't want to see. How can the Akatsuki be so weak? If the Akatsuki is so weak, how can the 5 great villages not hesitate to let go of the grievances accumulated from previous wars and join hands to deal with the Akatsuki? It can be said that such a behavior of Akatsuki, in fact, in addition to proving their strength to everyone, they also tore off the last layer of fig leaf that those fools in the shinobi world who didn't want to see the situation clearly put on themselves. In the Woodleaf Ninja Village, Watergate was at the gate of the Woodleaf Ninja Village at the moment, waiting for the 4th Dame Raikage AI to bring the remaining forces of the Land of Lightning and the Cloud Village to Woodleaf Ninja Village to meet with Watergate. Perhaps in AI's heart, among the 5 great villages, only Watergate meets the requirements of his heart for an ally. The Kazakage Gara of the Land of Wind is aggressive, but after all, he is too young, and his thinking is a bit naive. The Tsuchikage Inoki of the Land of Earth is old and has become muddle-headed and cowardly. The conflict between the Cloud Village and the Rock Village is also very big, and even the father of the previous Raikage died in Inoki's calculation. Although the Mizukage May of the Mist-Hidden Village is shrewd and courageous, from A's point of view, women still have many shortcomings compared to men. Moreover, it's not a good choice for the Raikage to take refuge with the Mizukage of the Mist-Hidden Village. After some consideration, only the Hokage of the Woodleaf Village, Watergate of the Land of Fire is in A's heart. Moreover, compared to other countries, Konoha has an advantage that other villages can't reach, and that's the abundance of resources. Although the 5 countries outside of the Land of Fire have their own specialties, compared to the Land of Fire, they are still slightly inferior. It can be said that the cloud village of the Land of Lightning has lost its foothold. If they want their ninjas to not be treated coldly, only Konoha, who manages its image in the shinobi world and flaunts itself with gentleness and peace, can really take in the ninjas of the cloud village of the Land of Lightning. Although there will be a lot of voices that AI doesn't want to hear in the Land of Fire or Woodleaf Village, I believes that the Woodleaf Village of the Land of Fire, Icewind Watergate, who has a high reputation in the Land of Fire, will definitely tolerate their presence and suppress other people's active ambitions. Finally, after waiting for a while, the figure of the fourth Reikage AI, the Hachibi Column Force Killer Bee, and the Woodleaf Ninja Nara Shikamaru, who was sent to meet the cloud village of the Land of Lightning, slowly appeared in front of Watergate's eyes. Behind these three people were the remnants of the cloud village, who seemed to have deep pain and hatred in their eyes. Hokage-sama. Seeing Watergate, the Woodleaf Ninja Nara Shikamaru immediately sped up in front of Watergate and saluted very respectfully. This time, we received a total of ninjas, including the fourth Reikage and the daimyo of the Land of Lightning, and the total number of ninjas and politicians. Hearing Nara Shikamaru began to report the results of this mission, Watergate immediately waved his hand, indicating that Shikamaru didn't need to continue. After all, Watergate actually doesn't care so much about how many ninjas and politicians of the Land of Lightning came to Woodleaf Village to seek refuge. What Watergate really needs to take seriously is the fourth Reikage and the Hachibi Column Force, whose strength is beyond ordinary ninjas, and the specific situation of the fall of the Cloud Village. Although after Watergate's return, Woodleaf Village has been spending a lot of effort to investigate the Akatsuki's information, but it still has little effect. This time, since the Akatsuki was able to sneak attack the Cloud Village and caused great damage to the Cloud Village, then they must have shown some of their cards. When you clearly realize how powerful your enemy is, it won't make you feel terrible, but your enemy has been hiding in the dark, like a black veil covering their face, you will feel more terrible. Now, although the Cloud Village has suffered a certain loss, in fact, the high-end combat power is still very intact. Being able to use some low-level ninjas and civilians with almost no combat power in exchange for precious information of the Akatsuki, although it may be a bit cold-blooded, but such a transaction can't be regarded as a loss, right? Hokage, seeing Watergate directly standing at the entrance of the village to receive a group of defeated soldiers, although it was expected, but it also let a once again confirm Watergate's tolerance. Such a person is destined to achieve great things, and will not be blinded by temporary gains and losses, and stick to his decision from the beginning to the end. This is Watergate. His fighting ability is very outstanding, and he is also a qualified politician and leader. Reikage-sama, you don't have to say much, everything that happened now is not what we want to see. But since everything has happened, we can't be bound by the sadness and hatred in our hearts. The Akatsuki that invaded the Cloud Village is still entrenched in the Land of Lightning, and for the time being, it seems that there is no sign of activity again. Now, what we need to do is not to feel sorry for ourselves, but to work hard. What happened to the Cloud Village cannot happen to any other village, otherwise, it will be a huge loss for the entire ninja world. Chapter 596. In the Blood Cloth Pavilion, Nangongzhe was sitting at the dining table with his family Mashiro, Nangongro, and Little Linger. Ever since Nangongzhe mobilized all the disciples of the Blood Cloth Pavilion, the Blood Cloth Pavilion has been in a tense state of war preparation. However, because the situation hasn't reached the moment that Nangongzhe expected, although the Blood Cloth Pavilion was preparing their troops, they still didn't carry out any large-scale operations. So these days, Nangongzhe has been staying in the Blood Cloth Pavilion, receiving information from all sides. Nangongzhe has been analyzing the situation of the ninja world. And now is one of the few times that Nangongzhe can put down the various complicated affairs in his hands and eat with his family. These days, Nangongzhe really didn't have time to cook for his family, so this meal was actually made by Mashiro, Nangongro, and Little Linger after taking time off from the complicated work in the sharp gold altar. Although there are logistical personnel in the Blood Cloth Pavilion who can prepare meals for Nangongzhe, out of Nangongzhe's habit of eating, Mashiro still took time off from his complicated affairs to cook for Nangongzhe. This meal actually just started not long ago. The rice bowl in front of Nangongzhe was just taken a few bites by Nangongzhe, and the grilled blue and white fish on the plate was only touched by Nangongzhe a few times. But suddenly, a burst of urgent knocking echoed directly in Nangongzhe's house. Nangongzhe's brows instinctively frowned slightly. After all, eating time is one of the few times that he can put down all the burdens and share this time with his family. But now, even his last moment of relaxation was about to be taken away from him? Seeing Nangongzhe's displeasure, Mashiro naturally reacted immediately. Putting down the rice bowl in his hand, Mashiro slowly walked to Nangongzhe's side and put his hand on Nangongzhe's shoulder. "Don't be like this, Miyagi. You are not only yourself now, you are also not only the family of the three of us. You are also the leader of the Blood Cloth Pavilion, the common leader of the entire ninja world. Before, you could be willful and do whatever you want, but now you have a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders. This is not a bad thing." Mashiro returned to the Blood Cloth Pavilion together with Nangongzhe. As the temporary altar master of the Sharp Gold Altar, Mashiro also had a deeper understanding of the Blood Cloth Pavilion's affairs. As perhaps compared to Nangongzhe, Mashiro understood how important Nangongzhe was to the Blood Cloth Pavilion. The current Nangongzhe could almost be said to have become the spiritual sustenance of the entire Blood Cloth Pavilion. As long as it was Nangongzhe's order, the disciples of the Blood Cloth Pavilion would sacrifice their lives for Nangongzhe's order without any complaints. Hearing Mashiro's words, Nangongzhe raised his head and looked at Little Linger and Nangongro sitting opposite him, then looked at Mashiro standing beside him. In their eyes, although there was some hidden reluctance, it was more a kind of support for him. Although they enjoyed the fact that Nangongzhe could devote all his time to them, they were also unwilling to let Nangongzhe lose himself because of them. Nangongzhe wasn't just a gentleman who took care of his family. At the same time, Nangongzhe was also the leader of an organization, a peerless powerhouse standing in the ninja world. The sword of a powerhouse can be collected, but the sword of a powerhouse must never be covered in dust. Mashiro, Nangongro, and Little Linger all didn't want to become the dust attached to Nangongzhe's sword. Instead, they hoped that the three of them could become the scabbard of Nangongzhe's sharp sword, giving Nangongzhe a place to rest. Nodding his head to the three girls, Nangongzhe's eyes also became firm. In fact, Nangongzhe understood what Mashiro said just now, but maybe it was because of the strong pressure during this time, or maybe it was because he owed the three girls in his heart. Nangongzhe really didn't want to give up such an ordinary thing like sitting quietly with his family. But now that he saw the support of the three girls, Nangongzhe slightly understood their thoughts. They didn't want to be a burden to him. What they wanted more was to be his support behind him. When Nangongzhe understood the feelings of the three girls, he also secretly made up his mind that he would not let down his family's efforts. Then, "I'm leaving." Nangongzhe slowly stood up with the Heaven's Calamity sword in his hand. The anger between his eyebrows just now had completely disappeared at this moment. At this moment, Nangongzhe was once again the heroic and peerless expert in the hearts of the Blood Cloth Pavilion disciples, who pointed out the direction for everyone. Nangongzhe walked to the door of his small building and slowly pushed it open. He directly lifted his feet and stepped out of the door. The person standing at the door of Nangongzhe's small building was none other than Bai Shui, the altar master of Bai Shui, who was in charge of the intelligence gathering and assassination work. Bai Shui could be said to be the one who understood Nangongzhe's character the best among the original altar masters of the Blood Cloth Pavilion. However, this time the intelligence was really urgent. The moment he saw the intelligence, Bai Shui knew that he had to hand it over to Nangongzhe as soon as possible so that Nangongzhe could make a decision. Now was the time that Nangongzhe cherished the most and had a meal with his family. If other people came, Bai Shui really couldn't guarantee that Nan Gongzhi wouldn't explode with all the pressure he had been under during this period of time. Exploding was a small matter. However, if Nan Gongzhi took out his anger on the disciple who delivered the intelligence for him, or even punished him, such behavior would undoubtedly destroy Nan Gongzhi's image in the blood cloth pavilion. This was something that Bai Shui absolutely couldn't allow. Therefore, Bai Shui came. Even if he might have to bear the wrath of Nan Gongzhi, Bai Shui had no complaints or regrets. The moment Nan Gongzhi saw Bai Shui, he was slightly surprised. After all, during this period of time, every altar master of the blood cloth pavilion was in a state of high tension. The work that needed to be dealt with every day was also piled up like a mountain. Bai Shui's sudden appearance here was just to pass him a piece of information. Naturally, Nan Gongzhi was unable to react to such a thing. However, Nan Gongzhi wasn't a fool. After thinking about it, he understood the reason why Bai Shui did this. With a slight smile on his face, Nan Gongzhi looked at Bai Shui, who was standing opposite him. There were too many people who silently supported him. Even if it wasn't for himself, Nan Gongzhi would never allow himself to fail. Chapter 597. Chief. Before Nan Gongzhi could speak, Bishui bowed respectfully to Nan Gongzhi. Over the years, Nan Gongzhi has been the chief of the blood cloth pavilion. In fact, he has made great progress compared to when he was fighting alone. And the biggest progress is that Nan Gongzhi has become more and more able to hide his emotions when he needs to. Although among the original altar lords of the blood cloth pavilion, Bishui has always been the one who understands Nan Gongzhi the most and is also the one who Nan Gongzhi trusts the most. But even with such a close relationship with Nan Gongzhi, Bishui still doesn't think that he can see every second of Nan Gongzhi clearly. Especially now that she had interrupted Nan Gongzhi's meal with his most cherished family. Bai Shui didn't dare to guarantee that Nan Gongzhi wouldn't release all the pressure that had accumulated in his heart during this period of time. Bishui is very nervous now. This kind of nervousness is almost completely written on Bishui's face and reflected in the small movements of Bishui's body. And as a person who has received ninja training, Nan Gongzhi naturally found the nervousness in Bishui's heart very easily at this moment. Sure enough, he has accumulated too much pressure during this time. It actually made Bishui, who is very close to him, feel a lot of pressure. Bishui, there is no one else here, you and I don't need to be so restrained. Nan Gongzhi's face had a bit of a gentle smile. He gently put his hand on Bishui's shoulder, hoping to relieve the pressure in Bishui's heart in this way. Seeming to be aware of Nan Gongzhi's intention, Bishui's originally tense muscles gradually relaxed. Although Nan Gongzhi asked Bishui not to be so restrained, Bishui still took a step back and dodged Nan Gongzhi's hand on his shoulder. Bishui bowed deeply and said very respectfully, "Etiquette cannot be abolished, now is the critical time of the blood cloth pavilion. No one can indulge the feelings in their heart at will, we can't destroy the future of the entire blood cloth pavilion because of a moment of indulgence." Although it seems that Bishui is talking about himself, there is still a faint sense of blame to Nan Gongzhi. This kind of behavior was actually a kind of offense, but Bishui believed that such an offense had to be done. Since it has been decided to take the blood cloth pavilion as a third force to join this dangerous fourth shinobi world war that will sweep the entire ninja world, they must be prepared to sacrifice. Not only did they have to sacrifice themselves on the battlefield, but they also had to put down everything they cherished and focus all their attention on this war. Hearing Bishui's slightly accusatory words, Nan Gongzhi didn't have any anger in his heart. Instead, he was a little touched and speechless. After all, as the head of the blood cloth pavilion, and Bishui as the altar lord of Bishui altar, there is a great disparity in status between them. And in the blood cloth pavilion, offending one's superior is a crime that is enough to expel a disciple of the blood cloth pavilion from the blood cloth pavilion. Right now, even though Bai Shui was under such pressure, she still had to voice her opinion to Nan Gongzhi. How many men could compare to her spirit and strength of character? She was no less than a man. Don't worry Bishui, I already understand what you mean. From the moment I sat on the seat of the Blood Garment Pavilion's first seat, I was no longer, and could no longer be, alone. Countless disciples of the Blood-Robed Pavilion have entrusted their lives to me, and they have entrusted their futures to me. This is my responsibility, this is my duty. Ignoring Bai Shui's reaction, Nangongzhi took a few steps forward and walked to Bai Shui's side. He used his own hands to help Bai Shui up from the ground. He used his eyes to stare at Bai Shui's eyes, as if he hoped that Bishui could see his determination in his eyes. During this period of time, I have been willful, and I have also made all of you worry. From today onwards, no matter when or where, as long as there is an urgent military situation, as long as it requires me to personally deal with it, I will be on call and will not refuse. Hearing Nangongzhi's promise, Bai Shui's face finally had a slight smile. She took out a scroll from her bosom and very respectfully handed it over to Nangongzhi with both hands. Sure enough, it really is an urgent matter. Nangongzhi stretched out his hand and took the scroll from Bai Shui's hand. Nangongzhi didn't check whether there was any encryption seal on the scroll, but directly tore it open and read it. Seeing Nangongzhi open the scroll, Bishui also said to Nangongzhi, previously, our Blood Cloth Pavilion received the news about the Akatsuki organization's surprise attack on the Cloud Village, and directly defeated the Cloud Village. Now, the disciples of the Jade Water Altar have finally pieced together what happened that day through various channels. The specific details have been recorded in a scroll. Please take a look at it. Casually nodding his head, Nangongzhi directly looked at the scroll in his hand. The information was read by Nangongzhi, and Nangongzhi's expression became more and more dignified. White Zetsu Clone Army, Edo Tensei Army. After reading all the scrolls in his hand, Nangongzhi quickly noticed the two most important information. As for Uchiha Obito's attire change, Nangongzhi didn't take this information to heart, and the strange configuration of Obito's Rinnegan and Sharingan was not something that the disciples of Blood Cloth Pavilion could find after the war. In the known information, the White Zetsu Army and the Edo Tensei Army were the most likely to attract Nangongzhi's attention. The huge number of White Zetsu Army and the Edo Tensei Army that could summon the strong from the dead back to the human world, no matter which one, was a thorny problem. But now, the Akatsuki organization directly grasped these two powerful and terrifying forces in their own hands. Even with Nangongzhi's state of mind, he couldn't help but begin to worry. After all, Nangongzhi's plan was formulated under the situation that the strength of the ninja allied forces of the 5 great ninja villages was not far from the strength of the Akatsuki organization. Now, if one side occupied the absolute advantage, then Nangongzhi's plan to play an important role as a third party can only be put on hold. Bishui, inform the Blood Cloth Pavilion. Pay close attention to the next battle between the Ninja Allied Forces and the Akatsuki organization. Once the Ninja Allied Forces have a large number of losses, we are always ready to join the battlefield to balance the strength of both sides. Chapter 598. It wasn't just Nangongzhi who was worried about the strength of the two major forces in the shinobi world. As one of the 5 major shinobi villages, the Hokage of Woodleaf Village, Watergate was also worried about this matter. This time, after receiving the 4th Raikage, Watergate immediately asked about the Akatsuki's attack on the Cloud Village. Although the 4th Raikage was impulsive, he also knew the importance of information. Even if he was humiliated in his heart, even if he was unwilling to accept his failure, the 4th Raikage still told Watergate the precious information that the Cloud Village exchanged with their blood and lives. Kabuto, who used the Edo Tensei and claimed that he inherited and surpassed Orochimaru. The masked man who had 1 Sharingan and 1 Rinnegan, and who hid his identity with a mask and called himself Uchiha Madara. Even Zetsu, who had been staying in the Akatsuki for a long time, also showed the strength of a Kage-level ninja when he blocked the rescue team of the Cloud Village, and he could also use an exquisite Mokuton ninjutsu. Not to mention the White Zetsu army that was roughly estimated to be at least tens of thousands of people, and the Edo Tensei summoned from the underworld. The white Zetsu army that has the strength of a Chunin, and the strong people who have died without fear of death, it's really troublesome. Even Watergate, who has always been very optimistic, couldn't help but frown. After all, whether it's the advantage of the number of white Zetsu army, or the strength of the strong people summoned by the Edo Tensei, it's a huge trouble for ordinary ninjas. Considering the strength of the Akatsuki described by the Raikage, Watergate also thought that if the Akatsuki attacked the Woodleaf village with such strength, could the Woodleaf village block such an attack? Even if the Woodleaf village really tried their best to block the attack of the Akatsuki, how many Woodleaf village members would be left alive in the end? Last time, the former leader of the Akatsuki, Nagato, invaded Woodleaf village with his 6 paths of pain, which caused great damage to the village. The pain of war had not healed even now, and it was precisely because of this pain. This forced Watergate to find a suitable way to fight against Akatsuki and prevent them from using the same method to attack Woodleaf. But fortunately, after the Akatsuki organization invaded the Cloud Village, they almost stopped their actions. According to the investigation of the Woodleaf village, the Akatsuki seemed to be relying on the terrain of the Cloud Village to construct layers of fortifications. Is it possible that the Akatsuki wants to give up their flexibility advantage and turn to a frontal confrontation with the ninja allied forces formed by the 5 major ninja villages? Watergate didn't know what Akatsuki was thinking by using their weakness to fight against the 5 great ninja villages, but such a method was actually a good thing for the 5 great ninja villages. After all, if the Akatsuki really insisted on using sneak attacks to deal with the other ninja villages like the beginning, maybe it won't be like the first battle with the Cloud Village, but it can also cause enough trouble for the other ninja villages. Opening the blank scroll on his desk, Watergate picked up the pen and began to write on the blank scroll. From the beginning to the end, Watergate put down the pen in his hand. Watergate almost wrote 3 invitations in one go. Forming a seal with his hands, Minato cast a sealing technique on the 3 scrolls, and then summoned his shadow guards. Hokage-sama. The moment the shadow guard appeared, he directly knelt on the ground and said to Watergate very respectfully. Watergate didn't talk much with his shadow guard. He directly picked up the 3 sealed scrolls on his desk and walked to the front of the shadow guard. Send 3 Kage guards to deliver these scrolls to the 3 Kages of the land of wind, the land of water, the land of mist, and the land of earth. After delivering the scrolls, help them open the scrolls. I believe that after they see the contents of the scrolls, they will decide to come to Woodleaf village. Don't be in a hurry to leave, come back with them. This intelligence mission is very important, and it is very likely that someone will intercept you. So if things go wrong, immediately destroy the scrolls and use the flying thunder god jutsu I taught you. Be sure to do your best to save your life, no matter how important the mission is, it is not as important as your life. Listening to Watergate's words, the shadow guard who was half kneeling on the ground flashed a touch of emotion in his eyes. A person who can be so considerate of his subordinates, and even pass on his unique ninjutsu is simply unimaginable. Yes. The shadow guard lowered his head, and after a little gesture to Watergate, he immediately disappeared. Turning around, Watergate slowly opened the ninja world map and carefully looked at it. Now the Akatsuki defeated the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning and occupied the place where the Cloud Village was located. According to the 4th Raikage, in order to prepare for the war, the Cloud Village actually stored a lot of war materials. The 4th Raikage actually destroyed a lot of these war materials when he retreated with the remnants of the Cloud Village, but because of the time, there were actually a lot of war materials, including explosive tags, kunai, and other important materials, left behind. If the Akatsuki really used all these materials, it would be a big trouble for the 5 great ninja villages. Just now, Watergate sent out the scrolls to inform the Kage of the information obtained from the Raikage of the other 3 ninja villages, and he hoped that the 3 Kages could come and reconvene the meeting, or even directly form the ninja allied forces to gather all forces to attack the Akatsuki that was entrenched in the Cloud Village at this moment. He absolutely can't let the Akatsuki continue to attack the other ninja villages one by one, just like the previous sneak attack on the Cloud Village. This war doesn't seem to be as simple as I expected. Watergate's face was a bit dignified, and he secretly said in his heart, everything that happened in the Cloud Village is traceable, but the only thing I don't understand is why the Akatsuki made a large number of ninjas and civilians fall into a coma. If it was just to drag down the power of the Cloud Village, then why didn't they kill the civilians who fell into a coma or even the more threatening ninjas after the defeat of the Cloud Village? Chapter 599. In the Woodleaf village of the Land of Fire, in a heavily guarded conference room, the Kage of the 5 major villages once again gathered together. As Watergate expected, after receiving his scroll, the Kage of the other 3 villages immediately took action. These Kage brought their trusted aides and the daimyo of their country to the Woodleaf village. Under normal circumstances, the matters between ninja villages will not involve the daimyo of each country. After all, a ninja village is a collection of military forces of a country, and the Kage of each village is the supreme leader of the country's military group. In the ninja world, there has always been a dualistic system of separation of military and government. The daimyo and the Kage are independent of each other, but they also support each other to ensure the stable development of a country. But now, standing on the opposite side of the 5 major shinobi villages is an organization that wants to break the order of the shinobi world. Such an organization naturally won't follow the default mode of fighting between shinobi villages. The daimyo of each country is the face and symbol of the country, and there must be no mistakes. After settling the daimyo of their country, the Kage of each village also came to the conference room arranged by Watergate. Everyone was sitting in their own seat, and their faces were more or less heavy. Hokage-sama. Has the situation reached such a serious point? Looking at Watergate, Sandame Watergate, Anoki, who is the oldest among them and has been in power for the longest time, said in a low voice. The White Zetsu army with the strength of more than 100,000 chunin, with excellent stealth ability and special ninjutsu. The Edo Tensei army composed of powerful people who have passed away and can't really die. Each of them is a tricky existence, and if you want to fight with such an enemy, you must be prepared for heavy losses. And the one who made Anoki feel the most pressure is the masked man who has a pair of powerful Sharingan and Rinnegan, who calls himself Uchiha Madara. The masked man's Sharingan must be at least 3 Tomo Mangekyo level, and according to the intelligence of all parties, the only one in the allied forces who can fight against the masked man is Hitaki Kakashi, who also has a Mangekyo Sharingan. However, Kakashi didn't have the blood of the Uchiha clan, so Kakashi couldn't fully exert the power of the Sharingan. Although Woodleaf also has Byakugan, one of the 3 major dojutsu, but Byakugan's ability is more inclined toward support, it is still greatly lacking compared to Sharingan and Rinnegan in combat. Did they really have to rely on human lives to fight against the masked man? But in order to defeat this masked man, how many powerful ninjas will die on the battlefield? Such a loss can't be summed up with a simple number. After all, every powerful ninja is precious to the village. Everyone, although I don't want to raise the morale of others and destroy our own prestige. But the power possessed by Akatsuki organization is indeed beyond our village in all aspects. If it's just a single ninja village fighting against Akatsuki organization, to put it bluntly, any one of us will lose without a doubt. Watergate glanced at the Kage of each village and said with a dignified expression. But we're not just going to fight against the Akatsuki alone. Hearing Watergate's words, everyone felt a huge pressure in their hearts, and even fell into silence. However, among the 5 shadows, one of them stood up from his seat and spoke to the other 4 with a firm expression. This person was the youngest of the 5 Kages, the 5th Kazekage Gaara, who had been a Kage for the shortest time. Just like the judgment of the 4th Raikage AI, because of his young age, Gaara still has a lot of spirit left in him that is different from the other Kage. He's not afraid of failure, he's not afraid of sacrifice, he has a different kind of confidence and persistence for victory and the future. Our 5 ninja villages have different advantages. Tsunagekyu's poison and puppet technique, Cloud's ninjutsu and lightning release secret technique, Mist's assassination and infiltration technique, Rock's close combat and earth release secret technique, and Woodleaf Village's fire release ninjutsu and various secret techniques are things that the Akatsuki can't have. We are afraid of the Akatsuki, but they are also afraid of us. Otherwise, why didn't the Akatsuki dare to attack other ninja villages even though they had already invaded the Cloud Village, but instead of attacking other ninja villages, they stayed in the Cloud Village? In fact, although Gaara's words are somewhat reasonable, they still can't stand up to scrutiny. But at this moment, the Kage gathered here don't need a logical analysis. What they need is someone who can bring confidence to everyone. Originally, this role should actually fall on Watergate, who is very strong in both personal strength and village strength, but they didn't expect that Gaara, the youngest of the 5 Kages, would take on such a responsibility. Watergate took a deep look at Gaara. Obviously, he was also quite envious of Gaara's fearless spirit. He also had this kind of spirit before, but as time passed, this kind of attitude slowly disappeared from Watergate's heart. After all, the higher the position, the more things that need to be considered and estimated. Such an attitude is not suitable for the leader of a ninja village. Kazekage is right. Seeing Gaara stand up, Watergate also directly expressed his attitude. There are some things that we can't avoid. At the time of the 5 Kages tournament, the masked man has already told us about his crazy Eye of the Moon project. Once such a plan is implemented, whether it is ordinary people or ninjas, they will all become victims of this plan. Indeed, the Akatsuki is very strong. However, given our current position, we have no room for compromise at all. I have gathered all of you here. In fact, I want to discuss a feasible plan to resist Akatsuki organization with everyone. All the decisions we made during the 5 Kages tournament, now I think it's time to adjust them. The Akatsuki has already made a move, and we must not become the passive party. What we need is to get a certain result in a short time, not just to get us out of such a passive state. More importantly, we need to create some results to boost the morale of the entire ninja allied forces. The people are motivated. We have a real hope of victory. Chapter 600. History has proven countless times that when facing a powerful enemy together, the cooperation between all sides will increase. The efficiency of cooperation between people will rise to an extremely incredible level. There will be no wrangling and competition for interests during the 5 Kage tournament. This meeting went very smoothly, so smoothly that even Minato felt a little absent-minded. This meeting basically divided the combat forces and logistics forces of the 5 major ninja villages. The elite ninjas of all aspects of the 5 major ninja villages were scattered and mixed together. And this kind of mix is not a simple and crude mix, but a real organic combination after considering the abilities of the people in each ninja village. On the battlefield, the ninja allied forces were divided into 5 units. First unit, Mid-Distance Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Cloud Village's Ninja Darui as the commander of the unit. Most of its members are ninjas who rely on weapons and hidden weapons as their main means of attack. Second unit, Close Combat Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Rock Village's Ninja Kitsuchi as the commander of the unit. As the name suggests, this unit is a unit that is good at close combat among the troops of the ninja allied forces. Its role in the battle is very important, mainly to kill and contain the enemy. Although the 100,000 white Zetsu troops of Akatsuki are powerful, in fact, they are more inclined to ninjutsu type. This unit that specializes in close combat will definitely cause great damage to them. Third unit, Mid-Distance Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Hatake Kakashi of Woodleaf Village as the commander of the unit. Although it is called a close combat unit, in fact, this unit is a comprehensive unit. Among them, there are ninjas who are good at fighting, and also ninjas who are proficient in medical ninjutsu. Of course, there are also ninjas who are good at sealing. After all, among the combat forces of the Akatsuki, the Edo Tensei is a unit that cannot be defeated by conventional means, and can only be sealed by sealing. 4th Unit, Long-Distance Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Nara Shikamaru of Woodleaf Village as the commander of the unit. Most of the ninjas in this unit are proficient in long-distance attack ninjutsu, and some members are good at defense to protect ninjutsu-type ninjas. In addition to providing long-range support to the battlefield, this unit would also roam around the battlefield to provide support to the areas that needed it. 5th Unit, Special Combat Unit, led by Woodleaf Ninja Village Inazuka Kaku, led by ninjas who use special ninjutsu or special fighting methods. Although it's called an army, because their specialties and skills are different, it's actually just a scattered name. When the ninja allied forces need all the special talents, they will be transferred from this army. In addition to these 5 troops on the battlefield, there were several other troops that had been divided up. The first was the intelligence unit led by Inoichi Yamanaka of the Woodleaf Village and Ao of the Mist Village. They were mainly responsible for battlefield communication and information transmission. Secondly, the 5th Mizukage directly led a group of ninjas to guard the daimyo. After all, the daimyo was very important to a country, and there must be no accidents. The third was the infiltration reconnaissance team led by Woodleaf Ninja Anko Mitarashi. In this war, an important part of the Akatsuki's ability to fight against the ninja allied forces was the Edo Tensei unit, and the Edo Tensei unit was used by Kabuto, who had joined the Akatsuki. Although it's still not clear to what extent Kabuto has mastered the Edo Tensei Jutsu, from the information of the 4th Reikage, Kabuto has collected a lot of strong DNA. Whether it's the self-conscious gold horn and silver horn summoned by Kabuto, or the controlled Sandaime Reikage, all of them were a great hindrance in the process of the 4th Reikage's retreat. As the former disciple of Orochimaru, Anko Mitarashi knew Orochimaru's action pattern better than the average ninja. Since Kabuto claimed to have inherited Orochimaru's mantle, and the 4th Reikage said that his body shape and aura were very similar to Orochimaru, the ninja allied forces could only let Anko lead a group of ninjas to sneak into the enemy's territory to investigate Kabuto's information. The 4th was the surprise attack unit led by Kankuro Sunagakure. Instead of an army, it was more like an expanded version of a ninja squad. The ninjas in it had different abilities, but they could support and help each other. The reason why the 5 Kage set up such a squad was in fact, hoping to use their respective strength to test the Akatsuki's strength to a certain extent. The 5th was the medical unit specially established for the war. Originally, Watergate hoped that Tsunade in the Woodleaf Village would be the leader of this unit, but Tsunade has been in a semi-retired state after marrying Jiraiya. Although Watergate very much wanted to let Tsunade come out, because of the urgent situation of the war, Watergate could only leave the position of the commander of the medical unit empty, and let Tsunade's 2 disciples, Shizune and Haruno Sakura, serve as the temporary commanders of the medical unit. The last part was a completely auxiliary force, the Perception Force. The Perception Unit was not an independent unit. Instead, it was scattered and integrated into every previous main battle unit. The temporary commander of the Perception Force was Hope, the right-hand man of the 4th Reikage of the Cloud Village in the Land of Lightning. Although it seemed that this division was a little complicated, it was a division that the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages gathered together and discussed together with their respective think tanks. In addition to these forces used for combat or auxiliary combat, the 5 Kage also formed the head council that represented the highest power of the ninja allied forces, and selected the intelligent Woodleaf ninja Nara Shikaku and the Cloud Village ninja Ma Bai to assist the head council. Removing all factors that affect combat power, at this moment, the ninja allied forces is no longer a loose alliance between the 5 great ninja villages. At this moment, the ninja allied forces has become a force that includes almost all ninjas in the ninja world. The various ninja villages put down their grudges and cooperated with each other to fight against the Akatsuki that threatened the future of the entire ninja world. In the words of Minato Watergate, the ninja allied forces at this moment represents the power of the entire ninja world. And such a force is the strongest force to guard the future of the ninja world. Chapter 601. Land of Lightning, Cloud Village. Above the Reikage building, which originally belonged to the 4th Reikage AI, Uchiha Obito was standing at the top of the building, staring at the ninja allied forces that were constantly gathering outside the Cloud Village. The Cloud Village itself was located at a relatively high altitude, and there were often fierce winds sweeping through the Cloud Village. At this moment, Obito, who was wearing a navy blue robe and a white-gray mask, was standing on the roof. His robe was fluttering in the wind, and an iron-blooded aura of war was emitted from his body. The final battle? That's not bad. There was a slight smile on his face hidden under the mask. Not long ago, Obito directly extracted all the chakra of the 9 tails and the 8 tails from the golden horn, silver horn, and mermaid skin, but he didn't directly inject them into the Geto Mazo. After all, once the Geto Mazo gathered the aura of the 9 tails, Obito wasn't sure what would happen. So now that he saw the 5 great ninja villages gathered outside the Cloud Village, Obito was actually a little happy, especially after sensing the aura of the 8 tails and the 9 tails from the ninja allied forces through the Rinnegan and the Yin-Yang release inherited from Uchiha Madara. Obito also made up his mind to carry out the final battle. Zetsu. There was no one around Obito, but he suddenly shouted with his slightly low and hoarse voice. After Obito called out Black Zetsu's name, Black Zetsu's body slowly emerged from the floor of the top floor of the building. After Black Zetsu appeared, he stood directly next to Obito, his head slightly lowered, apparently waiting for Obito's order. Start the White Zetsu army to prepare for the attack. Tonight, we will launch a surprise attack on the Ninja Allied Forces base. This time, don't hold back, do as much damage as possible to the Ninja Allied Forces. I have already sensed that the 9 Tails and the Hachibi's people, Column Force, are inside the Ninja Allied Forces base at the moment, but the Ninja Allied Forces will definitely not let the Hachibi and the 9 Tails go out to fight easily. There must be a lot of guards around them, and Haku will never be able to break through such a defense quietly. Therefore, what we need to do now is to use pain to tell them that in terms of basic combat power, they have no way of resisting us. Although the last battle with the Cloud Village exposed the Edo Tensei, after all, only 3 Edo Tensei appeared. The Ninja Allied Forces can't imagine how powerful the Edo Tensei are. After mistakenly estimating our high-end combat power, the Ninja Allied Forces will definitely send their own Jonin or even Kage-level powerhouses to suppress the White Zetsu army. At this time, we can take the opportunity to send out the Edo Tensei and cause enough damage to these arrogant Jonin and Kage. At that time, due to the war situation, they will have to send their own people, Column Force, to fight us. At this time, it's time for us to capture the Hachibi Column Force and the 9 Tails Column Force. Listening to Obito's words, Black Zetsu, who had been silent all this time, couldn't help but show some excitement on his face. Yes, I will arrange it now. After Black Zetsu said such a sentence to Obito, he immediately merged back into the floor of the building. Obito casually glanced at the place where Black Zetsu disappeared with his eyes, and slowly covered his left eye with his left hand. Feeling the subtle fluctuations of the Rinnegan in his left eye, Obito's eyes also became sharp. Black Zetsu once sneaked into the Woodleaf village to retrieve a pair of Rinnegan that belonged to Nagato, but after returning, he only gave him one. Moreover, Black Zetsu has always insisted that he only got one Rinnegan from the Woodleaf village. From the bottom of his heart, Obito didn't trust Black Zetsu that much. After all, Black Zetsu's identity really made Obito feel that there was no way to fully trust him. After Uchiha Madara got the Rinnegan, he combined the power of the Rinnegan with his own spiritual force. If this is really the case, then Black Zetsu's loyalty to Madara is simply unshakable. Obito still clearly remembers that the reason why Uchiha Madara saved him from the battlefield of Kanabi Bridge was not because he cared about his back as a senior of the Uchiha clan, but because he hoped that Obito could be his agent after he left the world. Helping him monitor and guide Nagato, and then when the time is right, let Nagato perform Geto, Rinnegan Tensei Jutsu to resurrect him. Now that Nagato is dead, he also put one rinnegan in his eye. Such a thing is actually contrary to Uchiha Madara's plan, especially now that the other rinnegan is likely to be in Black Zetsu's body. This naturally made Obito more vigilant against Black Zetsu, and since he has doubts, Obito naturally won't sit still. Activating the power of his Manjikyu Sharingan in his right eye, Obito's figure slowly disappeared from his place. After a few flashes, Obito also came to the room where Yakushi Kabuto was. This room was arranged very simply by Yakushi Kabuto. There was a simple wooden bed with neat bedding, and even a thin layer of dust on it. Obviously it hasn't been touched for a long time. There were a few large bookshelves and a table with a variety of experimental equipment in the middle of the room. Yakushi Kabuto was obviously a research madman at the moment. However, Yakushi Kabuto wasn't like Do Chang, who was studying at his table, but was sitting on a chair, as if waiting for someone to visit him. When Obito's figure slowly appeared in Yakushi Kabuto's room, Yakushi Kabuto's eyes didn't have the slightest change. Instead, he had a feeling that everything was within his expectations. The feeling of arrogance directly showed on Yakushi Kabuto's face. In fact, Obito didn't like such a person very much, but such a person happened to be the easiest to control, so Obito forcibly suppressed his displeasure and said to Yakushi Kabuto, "I know that you and Black Zetsu have always been at odds, but now is the time of war. I believe you should also know what kind of mentality you should use to face the war, right?" Chapter 602. Since the ninja allied forces began to gather in front of the Cloud Village, Kabuto knew that Obito would definitely come to see him. After all, the 100,000 White Zetsu army led by Black Zetsu and the Edo Tensei army under his command were the main forces of this war. But due to various reasons, even though the Edo Tensei army had collected a lot of DNA from the deceased, there was no way for the Edo Tensei army's combat strength to be enhanced. So in Kabuto's mind, Obito would definitely come to him to find a way to control more Edo Tensei. But at this moment, the moment Obito appeared, he actually said such threatening words to Kabuto. This was something that Kabuto didn't expect. Although Obito's words were beyond Kabuto's expectations, Kabuto wasn't so panicked, because no matter what Obito said, his Edo Tensei was an important force that Obito couldn't give up. In other words, Kabuto was still somewhat fearless. Seeing that his words didn't make Kabuto feel a sense of crisis, Obito didn't feel much surprise. After all, Kabuto had a long experience in hiding, concealing and controlling his feelings wasn't that difficult for him. This battle is very important, even if it's the final battle, there's nothing wrong with it. So I absolutely won't allow some internal reasons to lead to the failure of this war. I think you also know this. Obito slowly paced back and forth in Yakushi's room. He walked to a table full of instruments, picked up an experimental test tube-like glass container, and slowly rubbed it with his gloved hand. "I have roughly formulated the next strategy, and the Edo Tensei in your hands will play an important role in it. But now it seems that the power of the Edo Tensei is not strong enough, so I came this time to find a way to let you control more Edo Tensei, and then enhance the power in our hands." Sure enough, hearing Obito's words, Kabuto's slightly suspended heart was also relieved. No matter what kind of attitude Obito uses to treat him, no matter what kind of words Obito uses to modify his behavior, in fact, Obito's ultimate goal is still to strengthen the strength of the Edo Tensei as expected. Alchemist Pocket didn't take the threatening words from before to heart, or it could be said that Alchemist Pocket hid them deep in his heart. Slowly standing up from his seat, Yakushi tidied up his robe, and said to Uchiha Obito, "Actually, I've also considered how to strengthen my control over the Edo reincarnation. After a few rounds of thought and experimentation, I finally found a way to strengthen my control over the Edo reincarnation." He adjusted the glasses on the bridge of his nose slightly, and a wisp of light flashed through his eyes. The Edo Tensei itself is a forbidden technique developed by the second Hokage of Woodleaf Village, Tobarama Senju, but due to various factors, this ninjutsu wasn't fully developed. Later, one of the three Sannin, Orochimaru, found this incomplete ninjutsu from the Scroll of Seals, and thought that he could develop a ninjutsu that transcends life and death and obtain eternal life from it. During the study of eternal life, Orochimaru gradually perfected this ninjutsu. However, Orochimaru himself has undergone many transformations on his body, and the nature of his chakra has also changed a lot. In the end, this ninjutsu has almost become a ninjutsu specially made for Orochimaru, and it's difficult for others to use it. The reason why I can use this ninjutsu is that I use the power of Sage Mode to forcibly integrate Orochimaru's cells and chakra, which made my chakra nature change to a certain extent. But such a change is still not enough. My own chakra nature is still a certain degree of difference from Orochimaru's own chakra nature. If I want to improve my ability to control the Edo Tensei, then I must get more of Orochimaru's chakra, and make my chakra more similar to Orochimaru's own chakra nature. And I already have a target for the person who has a lot of Orochimaru's chakra, that is, Orochimaru's former disciple, Mitarashi Anko, who has the first-generation curse implanted in his body. There must be a lot of Orochimaru's pure chakra in the curse mark on his neck. Mitarashi Anko? A familiar name rushed into Uchiha Obito's ears. After all, Mitarashi Anko and Obito can be regarded as ninjas of the same generation. But as Orochimaru's disciple, Mitarashi Anko actually has almost no intersection with the ordinary Uchiha Obito. At most, the two have met a few times because of the war, that's all. But from his memory, Uchiha Obito confirmed the truth of Kabuto's words. Is that so? What I need is Mitarashi Anko. What a coincidence. Just before, Uchiha Obito has received information from White Zetsu's clone lurking outside the Cloud Village, that a team led by suspected wood-leaf ninja Mitarashi Anko sneaked into the Cloud Village. At that time, Obito didn't care. After all, with Mitarashi Anko's ability, he couldn't really sneak into the core area of the Cloud Village, which was built by Akatsuki. But now, Kabuto actually said that Mitarashi Anko was the key to strengthening the Edo Tensei, which made Obito feel a little bit sleepy, as if he had received a pillow. Uchiha Obito began to quickly make hand seals, and a ninjutsu that needs to be combined with the power of Rinnegan was quickly cast by Obito. Originally, because of the blowing wind, there were no clouds in the sky above the Cloud Village, but at this moment, slightly dark clouds slowly condensed, and after a little brewing, it began to slowly drizzle. Ninjutsu, Rain Tiger Freedom Jutsu. Originally, when this ninjutsu was cast, it needed to cooperate with the rainy weather, but now with the power of Rinnegan, it actually created a sporadic drizzle that covered the entire Cloud Village. Chapter 603. The patter of rain drifted down from the sky. Although a part of the earth chakra was integrated into it, because the content was very small, it wasn't so easy to detect. The Cloud Village itself was located in a highland area. There were almost no tall trees. Most of the area was covered with large areas of lawn and sporadic low shrubs. Without tall trees, the Rain Tiger Free Jutsu used by Obito almost directly covered everyone's body without any hindrance. Mitarashi Anko, who was carrying out the infiltration mission, tried her best to find the trace of Kabuto and then find an opportunity to stop the Edo Tensei team. But the security of the Cloud Village was completely beyond Mitarashi Anko's imagination. She wandered around the periphery for a long time, and almost walked around the entire Cloud Village, but Mitarashi Anko almost didn't find any loopholes in the defense of the Cloud Village. During this period of time, the Akatsuki's full operation and a large number of manpower and material resources were invested in the Cloud Village, which made the originally heavily defended Cloud Village become a watertight iron bucket. Such a situation made Anko impatient. After all, the war is getting closer and closer. If she doesn't do anything, then the Allied ninja forces will have to face a group of dead powerhouses who can't be destroyed but can only be sealed. How much damage will the Allied ninja forces suffer if that happens? Anko simply couldn't imagine. Damn it. What should we do to sneak into the Cloud Village? Anko's temper was not so good, especially after suffering a huge pressure. She finally couldn't suppress her anger. The three members of the reconnaissance team, Abure Moda, Hyuga Takuma, and Lan Hua, although they didn't directly burst out like Anko, their faces were also very ugly. Especially when the sky became very gloomy and even started to drizzle, the mood of the 4 members of the Red Bean Squad, including Red Bean, also became gloomy. Mitarashi Jonin, what should we do now? As soon as we entered the Cloud Village, we were already detected by the other party. But because our mission is urgent, we took the risk to enter the Cloud Village, hoping to find as much information about Kabuto as possible. Now we have been in such an environment for so long, if we don't leave, even if the Akatsuki in the Cloud Village reacts slowly, they will definitely attack us. Since we can't find the possibility to sneak in now, should we retreat? In the Anko squad, Hyuga Takuma, a ninja of the Hyuga clan, suggested to Anko. That's right, after the infiltration team led by Anko entered the Cloud Village, it wasn't only the White Zetsu that discovered the traces of the Anko squad, but the Anko squad also discovered the White Zetsu that wasn't very strong. After all, in the Anko squad, all the members were Jonin or special Jonin level ninjas, and among them, Hyuga Takuma and Abure Mota were very powerful perception ninjas. Although they couldn't directly pinpoint the location of the White Zetsu clone, they could still detect it. Hyuga Takuma himself was actually a calm temperament, or a temperament that was not willing to take risks. Being able to promise Anko to invade the Cloud Village without being discovered was already because of the importance of the mission. But since there was no possibility of completing the mission, Hyuga Takuma naturally put forward his own ideas. Seeing Hyuga Takuma put forward the idea of giving up the mission, Anko also forcibly suppressed the anger in her heart. After all, although Mitarashi Anko would find it hard to control herself when facing Orochimaru and anyone related to him, now was not the time for her to be willful. The lives of her 3 teammates were also a heavy burden on her heart. She cast her eyes to her other 2 teammates except for Hyuga Takuma. Although Lan Hana's slightly bearded face was still a little hesitant, the other teammate, Abure Mota, had already slowly nodded. Although she didn't speak, she obviously agreed with Hyuga Takuma's idea of retreating. Sure enough, can only retreat? Mitarashi Anko was very clear that in a battle between 2 armies, any perception-type ninja is very important. If it wasn't for the importance of this mission, the 4th Hokage Wave Kaze Watergate wouldn't have arranged 2 of the best perception ninjas in the Woodleaf Village to be in his team. Since there is no possibility of completing the mission, Anko naturally has to preserve some strength for the Woodleaf Village. She can't become a sinner who consumes the village's strength for no reason. For a qualified ninja, the mission and the village are always in a higher position than their own feelings and will. Good. Let's retreat. Almost gritting her teeth, Anko gave the order to retreat to her 3 teammates. Obviously, after hearing Mitarashi Anko's order to retreat, whether it was Lan Hana, who had a complicated look in her eyes, or Dima Hyuga and Abure Mota, who clearly expressed their intention to retreat, all of them had a relaxed look in their eyes. After all, staying at the enemy's rear without any reinforcements is actually a great psychological pressure for ninjas. Since they have decided to retreat, and it's very likely that they have been detected by the enemy, as the 2 ninjas with the strongest perception ability in the team, Hyuga Takuma and Abure Mota also used their ninjutsu to find a suitable retreat route. Hyuga Takuma made hand seals, and his chakra gathered in his eyes, blue veins popped out, and the white eyes opened. The still life around him instantly lost its color, turning into black and white in Hyuga Takuma's eyes. Abure Mota also released the parasite hidden in her body for detection, and in the blink of an eye, small black insects had already scattered in the surrounding space. The parasite itself is more sensitive to chakra than the ninjas, and when the first insect was drenched by the raindrops, Abure Mota's eyes hidden behind her glasses became serious. Not good, we were discovered. Chapter 604. The Banshee's perception of chakra is far beyond the human's perception ability. When the Banshee came in contact with the raindrops cast by Yin-Yang release and Rain Tiger technique, it quickly noticed the faint chakra in them. How can ordinary raindrops contain chakra? Almost instantly, Abure Mao Tian already knew that the whereabouts of the four of them had been discovered. Hearing Abure Mao Tian's words, the other members of the scouting team also became nervous. Although they already knew that their whereabouts were exposed when they entered the Cloud Village, but now that Abure Mao Tian said this, it's not as simple as their whereabouts being discovered, it's very likely that their whereabouts have been completely grasped by the Akatsuki. How is it possible? How did they? Hearing Abure Mao Tian's words, Lan Hua couldn't help but say with a bit of surprise. But before she finished speaking, Lan Hua was completely speechless. Because Lan Hua keenly discovered that not far away from them, the air began to distort out of thin air. Before entering the Cloud Village, all the members of Mitarashi Enko's squad read the joint statistics of the 5 great ninja villages about the members of Akatsuki. The masked man called Uchiha Madara, who can use space ninjutsu and single-handedly started the 4th Shinobi World War, has some understanding of this masked man. Isn't this a sign of space ninjutsu used in the records? Seeing such a sign, everyone couldn't help but get nervous. After all, although the members of Mitarashi Enko's squad have the strength of Jonin or Special Jonin, in fact, only Mitarashi Enko and Lan Hua have the strength of a Jonin. The other 2 members, Hyuga Takuma and Abure Mao Tian, are actually Special Jonin because of their superior perception ability. Specifically speaking of combat ability, they are only at the level of an elite Chunin. Get ready to fight. Looking at the appearance of space folds, Mitarashi Enko immediately began to shout loudly, and one of her hands took out a kunai and put it on her chest. However, Red Bean also placed her other hand behind her back and signaled to her 3 teammates, "The situation is critical, retreat when the opportunity arises." Dima Hyuga, Abure Moda, and Lan Hana also tensed up after seeing Enko Mitarashi's sign language. Indeed, according to the intelligence, the masked man's strength was unfathomable, and he wasn't an existence that could be resisted by Jonin or even Chunin-level ninjas. "Can't find you, us." Obito's figure slowly emerged from the space ripples. He spoke with a strange emphasis, like a child who was addicted to hide-and-seek and found his little friend hiding in a secret place. He spoke with a bit of excitement and banter, but compared to a child, Obito's voice was undoubtedly more terrifying and threatening. If he was discovered by Obito, not only would he lose the game, he would also lose his life. Soft Fist Technique, 8 trigrams 64 palms. After seeing Uchiha Obito's body completely appear in space, Hyuga Takuma, who is the best at close combat in the 4-person team, immediately launched an attack. As a close combat ninja, Hyuga Takuma is very clear about his duty. He needs to do his best to restrict Obito's movements and create opportunities for his companions. Although he can't defeat Obito, at least there is a possibility of escaping. Starting from where Hyuga Takuma was, the 8 trigrams field was instantly spread out, and sticky chakra was released to hinder the opponent's movements. Seeing Hyuga Takuma attack, Abure Mao Tian also used the Aburame clan's signature ninjutsu, Parasite Worm. A large number of black parasites rushed out from Mao Tian's skin. Although each parasite was small, when a large number of parasites gathered together, they directly formed a black torrent. Secret Technique, Insect Jade. The original secret technique, Insect Jade, is used to completely restrict the enemy inside the parasite and then absorb the enemy's chakra, making the enemy lose the ability to fight and even their life. But at this moment, in order to leave room for Hyuga Takuma to attack, the parasites turned into a black ribbon under the control of Mao Tian and surrounded Obito's body at high speed. Seeing that Obito was controlled by the parasites, Hyuga Takuma didn't hesitate to rush forward, with a large number of chakra on his hands, aiming at all the acupuncture points on Obito's body. Hyuga Takuma wanted to seal all the acupuncture points on Obito's body, and then make him lose the ability to use space ninjutsu. As long as Uchiha Obito can't use space ninjutsu, their team members have a chance to escape. The struggle of an ant, looking at Takuma Hyuga rushing towards him and Abure Mao Tian in the distance who was constantly controlling the parasites in an attempt to control him, Obito's eyes became colder and colder. Once upon a time, he was also like this. In order to protect his teammates and his own beliefs, even if he saw a powerful existence, he didn't have the slightest fear, but it was precisely because of this that he lost his most beloved person and half of his body. Until now, the regret of losing something precious was burning his heart all the time. It is precisely because of this burning feeling that the figures of Hyuga Takuma and Abure Mao Tian are more and more dazzling in Obito's eyes. Slightly lowering his head, his 3-tomo Sharingan instantly transformed into Mangekyo Sharingan, and Mangekyo Sharingan Dojutsu, Kamui, was instantly activated. Uchiha Obito's body began to become illusory, and Uchiha Obito directly walked out of the parasites that were surging around him at high speed. Seeing that Obito directly ignored the parasites and the shackles of the 8 trigrams domain, Hyuga Takuma was very surprised. But at this moment, Hyuga Takuma was in a state of high-speed movement, and it takes some time for him to change his technique. But will Obito give Hyuga Takuma such a time? Obito also accelerated his speed, and his illusory body rushed straight in the direction of Hyuga Takuma. Obito used this technique on Killer Bee, the Hachibi column force, and now he is using it on Hyuga Takuma. Obito's illusory body directly passed through Hyuga Takuma's body. At the moment of passing through, Obito immediately condensed his chakra into a black iron rod, and directly inserted it into Hyuga Takuma's heart. Chapter 605. After the black iron staff pierced through Hyuga Takuma's heart without any hindrance, Obito didn't stop to check the result of his battle. Instead, he looked at Hyuga Takuma, who was standing slightly behind Takuma. Indifferently and decisively, he pulled out the black iron rod in his hand. Blood flowed directly from the round wound on Takuma's chest. His lifeless eyes were wide open, and his weak body fell directly to the ground. Now it's your turn. Uchiha pointed the black iron staff in his hand at Abure Mao Tian. His eyes were slowly filled with contempt for life. Seeing that Obito defeated Hyuga Takuma with a single blow, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua, as the team leaders, immediately rushed towards Abure Mao Tian's location. As teammates, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua understood that Abure Mao Tian wasn't the type of person who was good at fighting. Obito had already killed one of their companions. If the two of them didn't help Abure Mao Tian, then Abure Mao Tian herself would be doomed. Lan Hua. Anko Mitarashi shouted Lan Hua's name loudly, and her hands quickly formed hand seals. Hearing Anko Mitarashi's shout, Lan Hua also reacted quickly, and her hands also quickly formed hand seals. Currently, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua were still some distance away from Abure Mao Tian, but Obito was very close to her, so if Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua really want to save Abure Mao Tian, then they must use long-range ninjutsu to prevent Obito from getting close to Abure Mao Tian. Abure Mao Tian wasn't without any fighting ability. She directly opened the huge jar on her back, and a large number of parasites rushed out of the jar, and under Abure Mao Tian's control, they constantly flew and changed in the air. Anko Mitarashi. After all, Lan Hua and Abure Mao Tian were members of the same team, so there was some tacit understanding between them. Almost at the same time, the ninjutsu prepared by the three of them all attacked the place where Obito was. Ninjutsu, destruction of snakes. Secret technique, parasites, cluster. Wind release, thousand-face wind. Anko Mitarashi opened her hands, and a number of poisonous snakes with strong venom drilled out of her sleeves one after another. A large number of snakes rushed towards Uchiha Obito like arrows. Almost two-thirds of the parasites controlled by Abure Mao Tian rushed towards Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito's body was surrounded by countless parasites. Lan Hua's Thousand Wind Jutsu is a ninjutsu that uses chakra to condense a large number of wind blades to attack. After seeing that Obito's body seemed to be controlled by Anko Mitarashi's poisonous snakes and Abure Mao Tian's parasites, she immediately controlled her chakra to condense wind blades to attack Obito's body that was already surrounded by the parasites and snakes. The sharp wind blades directly attacked the parasites and the poisonous snakes wrapped around Obito's body, but neither Abure Mao Tian nor Anko showed any distressed expression. Especially for Abure Mao Tian, she cultivated the parasites bit by bit with her own chakra, so the loss of a large number of parasites was simply unacceptable for her. But now, even if a large number of her parasites are dying, Abure Mao Tian can only suppress the reluctance in her heart and control the remaining one-third of the parasites to attach to her body. The chakra of the parasites themselves is fed back to Abure Mao Tian's body. Although a parasite's body didn't contain that much chakra, but when a large number of parasites gathered the weak chakra in their body and transferred it into Abure Mao Tian's body, the huge amount of chakra made Abure Mao Tian's meridians feel a little unbearable. After exchanging a glance with Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua, the three of them simultaneously withdrew the chakra that they were using to maintain their ninjutsu. At the same time, Anko Mitarashi, Lan Hua, and Abure Mao Tian also directly retreated in three different directions. After all, Uchiha Obito was only one person. Although Anko Mitarashi and the others retreated separately so that the three of them couldn't take care of each other, but chasing them also needed to confirm their whereabouts one by one. This undoubtedly bought time for the other teammates who weren't being chased. Ignoring whether Uchiha Obito, who was wearing a mask to hide his identity, was injured by their joint attack, Anko Mitarashi just desperately rushed in the direction of leaving the Cloud Village. Even if her legs had become sore because of a large number of chakra, and even if her chakra was showing signs of exhaustion, Anko Mitarashi still used her will to drive her body to continue rushing. She felt like there was a grim reaper behind her who was holding a scythe that harvested souls and was staring at her covetously. Run! 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 There was a voice constantly shouting in her heart. You must go back alive. You must. Along the way, Anko Mitarashi shuttled between the bushes that weren't tall enough, trying to avoid all the raindrops that might fall on her body. Just as Mitarashi Anko was running for her life, a chill suddenly spread from Anko's spine to her entire body. The feeling of danger. Almost instinctively, Anko Mitarashi controlled her body that was moving at high speed and directly rolled to the side. Ding! At the moment when Anko Mitarashi dodged her body, a black iron rod was directly inserted in the place where Anko Mitarashi was just a moment ago. It has been a long time since Anko Mitarashi separated from her other two teammates. At least one of her other two teammates may have died in the hands of Uchiha Obito. It seems that she can only go all out, right? Looking at Uchiha Obito, who was standing in front of her with a black iron rod in his hand, Anko Mitarashi's eyes flashed with a trace of determination. Quickly making hand seals, Anko Mitarashi directly rushed in the direction of Uchiha Obito. Ninjutsu, Double Snake Killing Jutsu. Chapter 606. Two huge pythons as thick as an adult's thigh directly rushed out of Anko's clothes after she finished the hand seals. One of them wrapped around Anko's body, and the other one rushed directly towards Uchiha Obito like a ghost, directly entrenched on Uchiha Obito's body. Seeing that Obito was controlled by the pythons, Anko also quickly approached Obito's side, and put her hand together with Obito's gloved hand. As long as she can use her hand and Obito's hand to make the hand seal at the same time, then her and Obito's chakra will be completely absorbed by the two pythons, and the huge chakra will directly detonate the two pythons, and then kill the two people entangled by the pythons at the same time. This is the most powerful ninjutsu that Anko learned from Orochimaru, and it's an S-class forbidden technique used to perish together with the opponent. Why don't you guys have any creativity at all? In the end, one or two of you think you can really perish together with me. It's really boring. Looking at Mitarashi Anko, although he was wearing a mask, Obito's eyes revealed a very obvious look of contempt. From Uchiha Obito's words, it's not difficult to see that the people who were chased by Uchiha Obito before Anko also wanted to perish together with Obito, but obviously, it didn't work. However, Mitarashi Anko still has full confidence in this double snake fusion jutsu. After all, this ninjutsu is an S-class forbidden technique personally developed by the genius of a generation, or rather, the ghost of Orochimaru. No matter how much Mitarashi Anko resents Orochimaru, the fear and respect for Orochimaru that was cultivated since childhood made Mitarashi Anko believe that once this ninjutsu is completed, she will definitely cause enough damage to Uchiha Obito. Grabbing Uchiha Obito's hand, she made the hand seal with his hand, and all the chakra in Anko's body began to pour into Obito's body. Under normal circumstances, Anko's own chakra will guide all the chakra out of Obito's body and inject it into the two pythons, and then detonate them at the same time, whether it's the caster or the target, they will die at the same time. Anko used the hand seal with Uchiha Obito to transfer her chakra into Uchiha Obito's body, but when Anko released a large amount of chakra, she found that there was no way for her chakra to invade Uchiha Obito's body. This feeling is like the hand seal with her is not Uchiha Obito, but a piece of wood, or a stone. Wood? Stone? When such a thought appeared in Anko's mind, an idea rose in her mind. From the information collected by the 5 great shinobi villages, the masked man has the Manjikyu Sharingan, which is far superior to the 3 Tomo Sharingan. After the hypnotic eye of the Sharingan evolved into the Manjikyu Sharingan, there must be a qualitative leap. So is it possible that she really unknowingly fell under the genjutsu of the Sharingan, and the target she is controlling now is not the real masked man? Catching the surprise in Anko's eyes, Uchiha Obito's eyes finally flashed with some appreciation. Sure enough, you are worthy of being a ninja trained by Orochimaru. Although you were abandoned by Orochimaru in the end, your ninja accomplishment is also one of the best. You didn't even realize what was going on at the last moment. Worthy of praise, but unfortunately, it's useless. You should be glad that you are still useful to my plan, otherwise, you can only be buried in a foreign land like your other 3 companions. After Obito finished his sentence, his body slowly faded, and even his physical features gradually changed, turning into a wooden puppet of the same size. This is the strategy achieved by Obito and his hidden jutsu, would release, would clone, combined with the genjutsu of the Sharingan. When the genjutsu was actively removed by Obito, Anko finally saw the real situation. At this moment, Obito was looking at Anko and the wood clone, who were entangled by the 2 pythons with a bit of ridicule. It was like watching a funny play, and then being driven by the funny behavior of the actors in it, he couldn't help but want to sneer. Originally, Anko wanted to use the twin snake fusion jutsu to perish together with Obito, but at this moment, it became a fatal action to restrict her movements. Anko could only watch Obito slowly walk towards her, but there was no way to respond at all. Turning his hand into a hand blade, Obito walked to Anko's side and slashed his hand on the back of Anko's neck. The powerful force directly caused Anko to fall into a coma, and the double snake internecine jutsu, was also cancelled because Anko fell into a coma. Reaching out his hand, Obito roughly grabbed Mitarashi Anko, who had already fallen into a coma. Like holding a piece of merchandise, he lifted Mitarashi Anko by her collar. Activating his Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, spatial ripples were instantly generated, and Obito and Anko were both absorbed into it. In Yakushi Pocket's room, spatial ripples were generated out of thin air, and Uchiha Obito directly appeared in the room with Anko in his hand. Seeing the spatial ripples, Yakushi Pocket was quite anxious to greet him. Without greeting Uchiha Obito, Yakushi Pocket directly took Anko from Obito's hand. He flipped open Mitarashi Anko's collar, and the 3 Tomo runes appeared in Medicine Master's Pocket's field of vision. Slowly placing his palm on the curse mark on Anko's neck, he used his chakra to feel the curse mark, and a trace of excitement flashed in Yakushi Pocket's eyes. Sure enough, as he expected, the original curse mark engraved on Anko's neck contains a large amount of Orochimaru's chakra and Yugo's mutated Senjutsu chakra. As long as all of this chakra is extracted and integrated into his chakra, then not only will his Edo Tensei technique be improved, his strength will also be greatly improved. Chapter 607. I'll leave her to you. But I also hope that you won't give me a result that I don't want to see. Looking at Kabuto's eyes full of excitement, Obito's tone was quite indifferent. For Uchiha Obito, the so-called fetters are simply the most useless thing. What Uchiha Obito likes the most now is the way he gets along with Kabuto and Black Zetsu. Everyone has their own pursuit, their own goals. Although it's inevitable for them to be suspicious of each other, as long as they don't relax their vigilance, they won't lose anything. Originally, after seeing Mitarashi Enko and perceiving a large amount of strange chakra belonging to Orochimaru from the curse mark on Enko's neck, such a situation made Kabuto's heart flutter a little. Even the state of mind that has been maintained for a long time became not so calm. Obito's words are not only a threat to Kabuto, but also to let Kabuto adjust his mentality. The reason why he can cooperate with Obito and Black Zetsu like this is because he still has value. Once he uses this value as his capital to run rampant, then he will eventually be kicked away by Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu, and even his life will be taken away. Don't worry. Kabuto put his hand on his glasses, slightly adjusted his glasses, and said to Obito very concisely. Then he directly picked up Mitarashi Enko and put her on a medical bed in his room that is obviously used for human experiments. At the latest tonight, I will let you see the results. Hearing Baguette's words, Obito slowly nodded his head. Time passed little by little, the sky was gradually shrouded by the light muslin of the night. Tonight, the moon is bright, and there are few stars, only a full moon is reflected in the sky. The cold moonlight sprinkled on the earth, the originally slightly reddish-brown soil at this moment is like sprinkled with a layer of silver powder, becoming a little sparkling. What is colder than the moonlight is Uchiha Obito's eyes at this moment. One red and one white eyes, at this moment, reflected a fierce and cold brilliance. Everything is ready. Black Zetsu's figure slowly appeared beside Obito, and reported his situation to him. Very good, then start preparing for the attack. When the army of 100,000 white Zetsu starts the attack, select some of the more evolved clones and send them to Kabuto. Yes, not long ago, Kabuto informed Obito that he has successfully extracted Orochimaru's chakra from Mitarashi Enko's body. After a short period of adaptation, his chakra has further transformed. Now, he can summon a large number of Edo Tensei's clones without full control. Since the second phase of the battle has been completed, Uchiha Obito didn't suppress his strong emotions, directly ordered Black Zetsu to attack. Every white clone have 8 TSS proficient in stealth. As long as the strength of the clone doesn't surpass that of the white Zetsu clones, then the white Zetsu clones are almost perfect. Among the white Zetsu clones, there are a certain number of white Zetsu clones that have reached the level of Jonin or even elite Jonin. When these white Zetsu use stealth and transformation ninjutsu, even a Kage-level powerhouse is likely to be deceived by these white Zetsu clones. The white Zetsu's attack plan is actually very simple. A large number of white Zetsu clones will directly transform into the appearance of the ninjas in the ninja allied forces. After all, the ninjas in the ninja allied forces come from the 5 great ninja villages. Although they have a common goal with each other, after all, the time they have spent with each other is still too short, and they still lack a certain tacit understanding with their familiar and unfamiliar comrades. And this gap also provides an advantage for the white Zetsu clones' attack plan. They are not familiar with each other, but they have to cooperate, and some actions that may cause suspicion are naturally included in the scope of tolerance. In just a few minutes, under the invasion of the white Zetsu army, many ninjas in the ninja allied forces were directly killed by the white Zetsu clones. And with the passage of time, the number of ninjas killed in the ninja allied forces also snowballed. This time, unlike the surprise attack on the Cloud Village, the white Zetsu army has been allowed to kill. Like a group of hungry beasts, the white Zetsu clones are constantly nibbling the ninjas in the ninja allied forces from the outside. Although deliberately disguised, the smell of blood has become stronger with the increasing number of ninjas who have lost their lives. There is no lack of strong ninjas in the ninja allied forces. Before the war, they even set up a special force to sense the situation and scattered it all over the ninja allied forces. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Almost in the blink of an eye, the news of the White Zetsu's invasion has spread throughout the camp. After all, ninjas are a profession that exists specifically for combat. When such a situation occurs, they also react quickly. One by one, ninjas began to deliberately shrink towards the inside of the camp, and the ninjas from various villages who have been divided into combat units also immediately gathered. Melee unit, gather. As the leader of the melee unit, Kitsuchi's voice directly passed into the mind of every ninja in the melee unit. Through the effect of the spiritual force amplifier, Yamanaka Inoichi has been putting his hand on Kitsuchi's head, using himself as a medium to directly pass Kitsuchi's order to the mind of every ninja in the melee unit. Don't panic. The White Zetsu clones are invading us. According to the intelligence of the Cloud Village, although their stealth and transformation abilities are very strong, there are not many strong ninjas among them. Now, the melee unit immediately gather and use your ninjutsu to resist the White Zetsu army that has already revealed themselves. The perception unit and the special operations unit have already begun to move. They will do their best to find the White Zetsu clones mixed in the ninja allied forces. After a short strategic deployment, Kitsuchi nodded to Yamanaka Inoichi, who put his hand on his head. After all, he is the leader of the melee unit. He can't stay here. He needs to fight against the White Zetsu clones with his companions. Chapter 608. White Zetsu clones have already launched an attack on us. Although the melee forces and other ninjas are doing their best to resist, White Zetsu's transformation and stealth ability are indeed a major problem that can't be ignored. There are even powerful jonin and elite jonin among the White Zetsu clones. Now they have posed a great threat to our combat forces. According to incomplete statistics, we have lost nearly half of our ninjas. At the Ninja Allied Forces Command Headquarters, Yakuj Assistant Officer Maibui from the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning received the information from the front line, and after a short reading, he said to the Kages sitting in his chair. Except for Terumi Mei, who is responsible for guarding the 5 major countries, the Kage from other villages are now here. Hearing Mabuyi's words, everyone's eyebrows furrowed slightly. It's just the first contact at the beginning of the war, and the ninja allied forces have already suffered such a large loss? After looking at the other Kage sitting beside him, Gaara sat up from his seat and said to the other Kage, "Don't worry, Kage. It seems that if there is no strong way to deal with the White Zetsu army, we will definitely suffer more losses. It's better for me to go to the front line now. My sand release is extremely good at large-scale attacks. With the help of the ninja allied forces, I believe that we can definitely defeat the White Zetsu clones in a short time." Seeing Gaara stand up and make such a proposal, whether it's Watergate, AI, Anoki, or Nara Shikaku, they didn't show any surprise. After all, compared to everyone present, Gaara is still young, and he doesn't think clearly enough. "Kazekage-sama, you must calm down." Seeing the other Kage sitting in their seats, Nara Shikaku knew that it's time for him to step in. Standing up from his seat, Nara Shikaku walked to Gaara's side. His face with several scars was full of wisdom. "We are very clear about the real purpose of the Akatsuki, that is, to collect all the people of the column force and then summon the Jubi to pull the entire ninja world into the Tsukuyomi world. All of their actions are bound to unfold towards this goal, and we also have to think from this point of view." Gaara has to say that he is very convinced of Nara Shikaku's wisdom. After so many years of experience, Gaara, who was originally extreme and irritable, has become much more stable. When Nara Shikaku stood up to persuade him, Gaara suppressed his temper. When the Akatsuki attacked the Cloud Village, they deliberately controlled a large number of civilians and ninjas in the Cloud Village, but didn't take their lives. The living ninjas and civilians are actually a resource that needs to be protected. But now, why is Akatsuki massacring our ninjas? Although it can be explained that they hope to annihilate us and then defeat us. But if we think about it from another perspective, could it be that they are actually hoping to put some pressure on us through such a massacre? Hearing Nara Shikaku's words, Watergate's eyes flashed. Nara Shikaku's brief analysis almost instantly answered Watergate's doubts. But at this moment, Nara Shikaku had no time to observe Watergate's situation, but continued to explain to Gaara and even everyone who began to have doubts about the actions of the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki not only has a large number of white Zetsu army, but they also have a fearless Edo Tensei unit. If our high-end combat power, such as the Kage, really takes action, then the Edo Tensei unit of the Akatsuki will definitely take action. Currently, we still can't completely judge to what extent Akatsuki organization has used Edo Tensei, this powerful forbidden technique. Regarding all the enemies whose strength we can't completely judge, we have no choice but to use their strength to the greatest extent when we consider our strategy. Before thinking about victory, think about defeat first. This has always been Nara Shikaku's attitude. If our Kage-level powerhouses start to fight, then the enemy's Edo Tensei unit will definitely take action. Once the Edo Tensei unit of the Akatsuki has enough powerhouses to compete with Kage-level powerhouses, then all our high-end combat power will be restrained. At that time, not only our combat troops, but even our high-end combat power will fall into a bitter battle. In order to win, we will have to send Column Force, who is also a high-end combat power, to the battlefield. If the Akatsuki still has spare strength at this time, then Column Force won't be guaranteed. Yes, the important thing is not the victory and loss of one or two battles, but whether the Akatsuki's plan can be carried out smoothly. As long as they can prevent the Akatsuki from achieving their Eye of the Moon plan, even if the 5 great ninja villages really suffer heavy losses, it is not unacceptable. But if we don't fight now, our combat troops will really be scattered by the White Zetsu army, then what should we do? Although Nara Shikaku's words are very reasonable, but also a problem that can't be ignored was raised by Gaara. After all, the battle is not a simple arithmetic problem, it involves the human heart and many more factors. Nara Shikaku naturally knows this situation, so he has not proposed an effective solution so far. Report. The acting leader of the medical unit, Haruno Sakura, requests an audience. It is obviously the critical moment of the war, but as one of the acting leaders of the medical unit, Haruno Sakura actually came to the Ninja Allied Forces command at this moment. Such a thing is almost beyond everyone's expectations. But as the 4th Hokage of the Woodleaf Village, Watergate's face didn't have the slightest trace of astonishment, instead, he was somewhat excited and gratified. Let her in. As the Kage of Haruno Sakura's village, Watergate directly said to the ninja who came to report. After a while, Haruno Sakura directly walked into the command center. After saluting to the several Kages, Haruno Sakura said to Watergate. Reporting to Hokage-sama, the results of the White Zetsu skull you asked Master to study have appeared. Master has conducted a comprehensive analysis of the White Zetsu's transformation ability and stealth ability, and has produced a large number of drugs to suppress their stealth and transformation ability. I request that the drugs be distributed to stop the White Zetsu clones from attacking. Chapter 609. That's great. Hearing Sakura's words, almost everyone in the headquarters became excited. Just now, everyone in the headquarters was troubled by the problem of saving their strength, but at this moment, the acting leader of the medical unit, Sakura, gave everyone a perfect solution. But from Sakura Haruno's short words, it revealed some information. This kind of medicine was developed by Tsunade by studying the skull of a White Zetsu. Tsunade's own attainments in medical ninjutsu are naturally needless to say, but when did Konoha's ninja village obtain and decide to study the head of White Zetsu and even mass-produce a potion to suppress White Zetsu's ability? It seems that before the war began, Watergate already understood the influence of the White Zetsu clones on the battlefield, and asked Tsunade, who can be said to be the best medical ninjutsu in the world, to study the White Zetsu in advance. This kind of foresight is simply terrifying. Sakura. Watergate slowly stood up from his seat, and after exchanging glances with the other three Kages, he was ready to give an order to Sakura. Now, mobilize all medical ninjas in the medical unit who have the ability to protect themselves and start rushing to the battlefield with the medicine developed by Tsunade-sama, and at the same time, distribute the medicine to all combat units to restrain the White Zetsu clones. As long as the medicine can be successfully distributed, and achieve the expected effect, then even if our top combat power doesn't attack, we can completely defeat the White Zetsu army with the strength of each combat unit. In Watergate's description, the battle against the White Zetsu army seems to be a victory. Not to mention others, at least as the temporary leader of the medical unit, Sakura's eyes were full of excitement. The first official battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War will be won in her hands? Sakura couldn't help but be fascinated by this feeling of glory. Yes. We will win for the shinobi world. Sakura took out the black gloves from her ninja tool bag, and slowly put them on her hands. Sakura is not only an ordinary medical ninja, but also a ninja with great combat power under the guidance of masters like Nangongzhi and Tsunade. After finishing her declaration, Sakura saluted Minato and the other Kages of the other villages and left the command center. Watching Sakura leave, the remaining three Kages and the two staff officers couldn't help but cast their eyes on Watergate. Anticipating the enemy's moves, controlling people's hearts. Is this the fourth Hokage of Woodleaf Watergate? Although he's not as powerful as Hashirama, who is known as the god of shinobi in the records of various villages, there's no doubt that the fourth Hokage is more scheming and will use more means than Hashirama. Such a person, if he's an enemy, must be eradicated first. If they can win him over, they must do their best to maintain a good relationship with him. But at this moment, although Minato couldn't completely crush the other Kage in terms of combat ability, it wouldn't be easy to take advantage of him. With Watergate's order, the medical team began to act quickly. The wounded were received by the medical team to prepare for rescue, and bottles of potions to suppress the ability of the White Zetsu clones were also distributed. Every ninja who received the potions couldn't help but show some excitement in their eyes. After all, every ninja has their own pride in their heart. The most important reason why the White Zetsu unit can compete with the allied ninja army formed by the 5 great ninja villages is that the White Zetsu clones have extremely powerful transformation and stealth abilities. This battle made most of the ninjas very angry. The more angry they are, the more disgusted they are with the enemy's disgusting ability. When they had the potions in their hands to restrain the enemy's advantage, the ninjas of the allied ninja army were also full of confidence. As long as it's a head-on confrontation, every member of the allied ninja army believed that they can defeat the White Zetsu clones. And the fact is indeed similar to what everyone in the allied ninja army expected. When the potions were distributed on a large scale, the White Zetsu clones were directly forced to break away from their transformation and stealth state under the effect of the potions. The naked and pale body of the White Zetsu clones directly appeared in the eyes of every member of the allied ninja army. Since the target has been determined, everyone has no possibility of holding back. A gorgeous ninjutsu directly attacked the White Zetsu clones in the allied ninja army. After suffering a wave of ninjutsu attack, the number of remaining White Zetsu clones immediately decreased. The close-range combat forces and mid-range combat forces in the allied ninja army all rushed forward, taking advantage of the fact that the White Zetsu clones hadn't reacted from the onslaught, and immediately rushed forward to strangle the remaining enemies. The battle is actually such a simple thing. Although there are various policies and strategies, in the final analysis, it's just one sentence: take advantage of your weakness. If the enemy's defense is too perfect, then you have to find a way to make the enemy have a flaw. Now, the potions provided by Tsunade for the allied ninja army were to create a gap in the seemingly flawless armor of the White Zetsu army. At this moment, the allied ninja army was like a beast that had been hungry for a long time and suddenly smelled blood. They ferociously and violently attacked the White Zetsu army. Although a large number of White Zetsu clones were destroyed, the allied ninja army also suffered a great loss. Killing 1,000 enemies, not to mention losing 800, but at least 200 or 300. But for the current allied ninja army, the loss is not so important. What they need is not to care about temporary gains and losses. What they need is a spectacular victory, full of glory, enough to make everyone believe that their side can win the final victory. This battle is the first official battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War. The impact of winning will be extremely far-reaching. So in order to win, what the allied ninja army needs is actually very simple, that is, a victory that no one regrets even if they lose more. Chapter 6:10. There's a problem with our plan, and the attack of the White Zetsu army has been hindered. Black Zetsu stood beside Obito and described the situation on the battlefield at the moment. Black Zetsu just started talking, but Obito already put his hand in front of Black Zetsu. Obviously he didn't intend to listen to Black Zetsu. At this moment, Obito's eyes had a Rinnegan that originally belonged to Uchiha Madara, and there's a strange connection between his eyes and the Gedo Mazo. The clones of the White Zetsu were all born from the Gedo Mazo, and now when Obito put all his attention on the White Zetsu army, he could feel the current state of the White Zetsu army with his Rinnegan. The large loss of the White Zetsu army was naturally perceived by Obito. It seems that the ninja allied forces have already noticed the weakness of the White Zetsu army and found a way to restrain the strange ability of the White Zetsu army. For Obito, all of this is actually a matter of time, although this time is indeed a bit too early. However, this situation didn't bring too much pressure to Obito. After all, the White Zetsu clones are actually consumables. As long as there is enough time and chakra, he can use the ability of the Gedo Mazo to create more White Zetsu clones. It doesn't matter, the loss of the White Zetsu army is also within my expectations. Now inform Kabuto, it's time to let those who are deeply buried in the yellow earth see the light of day again. The defeat on the battlefield has made Obito decide to add the Edo Tensei army into the battle ahead of time. The fundamental purpose of this battle was to create enough pressure on the shinobi army composed of the 5 great shinobi villages. Although the Edo Tensei army entered the battlefield ahead of time, it was understandable. Understood, Black Zetsu looked deeply at Uchiha Obito, who was standing on the ground with indifference in his eyes, but in his heart, he also knew what Uchiha Obito was planning. Before the war, Uchiha Obito asked Black Zetsu to send a group of highly evolved White Zetsu clones to Kabuto. Through the short message sent by those White Zetsu clones before they died, Black Zetsu could roughly judge the strength of the current Edo Tensei army. But to be honest, these White Zetsu clones were summoned through the Edo Tensei. After all, they are existences between life and objects. Therefore, their power is limited a lot, and they can only use 70% to 80% of their strength. Although the nature of the Edo Tensei army is very difficult, as long as they can find a suitable method to seal the Edo Tensei army is the Edo Tensei. However, among these Edo Tensei, there was a huge bomb that Obito didn't notice. Yudo Madara. Black Zetsu doesn't know what Kabuto and Uchiha Obito are thinking. Even if Black Zetsu didn't deliberately guide Uchiha Obito and Kabuto, they still put their little abacus on Uchiha Madara, a peerless powerhouse. Perhaps in the eyes of Uchiha Obito and Kabuto, the Uchiha Madara they summoned is just a puppet with a powerful soul that they can control. A frog at the bottom of the well can't see the big sky. How strong Uchiha Madara is, Black Zetsu is actually the one who has the most right to say. Black Zetsu has been active in the darkness of the ninja world for countless years, and naturally, he has seen all kinds of powerhouses, and Indra and Asura were also peerless powerhouses at that time. But even after such a long time, even after generations of reincarnations of Asura and Indra, the one who went the furthest and the closest to the six-path sage is Uchiha Madara. Such a person's life level has actually surpassed the ordinary life. As long as he is given the right opportunity, a peerless powerhouse like Uchiha Madara will definitely not be as simple as a puppet in the hands of others. But Black Zetsu won't say all this to Kabuto or Uchiha Obito, because in Black Zetsu's view, the person who can really resurrect his mother is not Uchiha Obito, who is now trying to become the column force of the Ten Tails. Obito's strength and talent is not enough. Uchiha Madara, who inherited Indra's chakra and is very close to the Six-Path Sage, is the best candidate. The shinobi world is a huge flower bed, and the people are like flowers, always showing their beauty in the flower bed. But what can the flowers in the garden know? I'm just a flower gazer strolling in the flower bed. Let me slowly appreciate their beauty. Mother, let me pick all the beautiful flowers in this garden for you one by one as a gift for your rebirth. Black Zetsu has already sneaked into the soil, but when no one can see him, Black Zetsu's face showed a pure smile, like a child who has just arrived in the world, pure and flawless. Let's start preparing. It's time to let the ninja allied forces see how powerful the power in our hands is. Black Zetsu's figure suddenly appeared beside Kabuto, who has been preparing the Edo Tensei in his studio, although it seems that he is very excited, showing his desire for victory. But Kabuto still felt a touch of contempt for all life from Black Zetsu. Kabuto also felt this feeling from Obito, but Black Zetsu's aura was stronger and more obscure than Obito's. If Black Zetsu was not as cautious when facing Kabuto compared to Uchiha Obito, even Kabuto can't guarantee that he can really discover the essence of Black Zetsu. You don't need to say more, I will naturally do what I have to do. The reason why after Kabuto joined Akatsuki's camp, he had always been at odds with Black Zetsu. The first reason was because after he joined Akatsuki's camp, he and Black Zetsu were in a state of mutual hostility and competition. The second reason is that Black Zetsu's mind is so deep that it is difficult for Kabuto to accept it, which makes Kabuto's heart full of tension. This was because the more scheming one was, the more ambitious one was. Chapter 6:11. When Obito saw that Black Zetsu went to look for Kabuto with his order, he didn't stay in the same place and did nothing. Obito also made hand seals and cast a ninjutsu. After putting his palms together, Obito slowly squatted down and put one hand on the ground, while the other hand was still making hand seals to maintain the output of chakra. A large amount of chakra was transmitted from Obito's hands to the ground, and black runes were condensed from chakra. The runes formed a formation, and the formation was activated under the stimulation of chakra. Boom! 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 A series of explosions sounded, and 6 white clouds of smoke appeared in the air around Obito. Rinnegan itself has the effect of controlling the body of others and giving them certain special abilities, but at this moment, Obito only has one Rinnegan, so Obito referred to Kabuto's method of controlling the Edo Tensei, and combined the method of summoning and controlling the Edo Tensei with the method of creating 6 paths doppelgangers with Rinnegan to summon several dead column force with the method of Edo Tensei. Using runes to control their bodies, and then injecting the power of 6 paths from Rinnegan into the bodies of several column force summoned by Edo Tensei, the bodies summoned by Edo Tensei were transformed to a certain extent. All the Jinchuriki summoned by the Edo Tensei are under the dual control of the Rinnegan and Edo Tensei, and to a certain extent, it also increases the strength of these Jinchuriki whose strength has decreased after the Edo Tensei. These are the 6 paths doppelgangers of column force that Obito specially created for his own plan. Moreover, the role of these 6 paths doppelgangers was not only to enhance the combat power of his own side, but also to strengthen the power of these column force summoned by Edo Tensei. At the same time, it was also to stabilize the Geto Mazo that had gathered the aura of 7-tailed beasts. These 6 paths doppelgangers of column force actually had a large number of tailed beast chakra in their bodies, helping them to perform the tailed beast mode to enhance their strength, and also to prevent the Geto Mazo from showing signs of going berserk due to the increasing power in their bodies. Yujito Nito, Yagura, Rashi, Fan, Yugao, and Fuku, from Nibi to the 7 former column force, all gathered here. Their bodies showed the characteristics of the Edo Tensei, and their eyes turned into a strange combination of left and right Sharingan. Although these eyes made them feel inexplicably out of place, the oppressive aura from them, it was enough to let everyone who saw them know that they were not to be trifled with them. They were all Six Paths doppelgangers that he could fully control and communicate with. Obito didn't say anything polite to them and simply gave them his orders. Cooperate fully with the Edo Tensei summoned by Kabuto, and do your best to help the Edo Tensei to suppress the ninja allied forces. Force the ninja allied forces to not hold back in the slightest. After hearing Obito's order, the Six Paths doppelgangers immediately took action and disappeared in front of Obito. On the other hand, Obito raised the Uchiha round fan on his back, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Judging from the ninja allied forces' current fighting style, they were actually delaying as much as possible, and then hoping to drag the Akatsuki, which didn't have a strong foundation, into the abyss of defeat through a war of attrition. However, Uchiha Obito himself didn't want the battle to become an endless battle of attrition. Although relying on the characteristics of the Edo Tensei and the White Zetsu clone army, the consumption of Akatsuki's combat strength was almost negligible, but the longer the battle dragged on, the easier it was for variables to occur. To be honest, even in Uchiha Obito's view, his Eye of the Moon project was actually not so perfect. Once the time dragged on for a long time, the ninja allied forces would find a way to stop him from performing the Eye of the Moon project, and Obito's wish to see his beloved again and make the ninja world be in eternal peace will fail. Originally, I wanted to use external pressure to force the Nine Tails column force and the Hachibi column force to fight, but from the current situation, the reason why the 5 great ninja villages put the remaining 2 column force in the ninja allied forces camp is actually to protect and monitor them. After all, the strongest force of the 5 great ninja villages is the ninja allied forces at this moment. Although they are in the battlefield, the place where the ninja allied forces are stationed is also the place with the highest protection. The Hachibi column force and the Nine Tails column force are both impulsive. Once they are really imprisoned in a remote and hidden place, as long as they come in contact with the information on the battlefield, then they will do their best to escape from such imprisonment. They may even clash with those who guard them, providing an opportunity for me to capture them. Sure enough, there are still smart people in the ninja allied forces. It's better to let them go, especially column force who seems to be a little irritable and violent because of the chakra's influence. I want to give them a chance to fight, but not really put them in danger. With such a move, it's really hard to say whether it's Shikaku Nara's proposal or Minato Watergate's order. Uchiha Obito himself was also very calm about the situation, but even if he noticed that the ninja allied forces didn't want column force to fight, Uchiha Obito still seemed to have some wisdom in his hand. Controlling people's hearts is not only the unique ability of Minato Watergate and Shikaku Nara. After so many years of experience, Uchiha Obito naturally has his own unique understanding of people's hearts. The ninja allied forces' way of dealing with the 2 column force is indeed very unique and the effect is outstanding. But there is still an inevitable flaw, that is, column force is not a fool without intelligence. It may not be easy to find out that he is being comforted in such a way in the beginning, but once he is comforted in such a way from the beginning to the end, no one will be able to accept it. This kind of rejection is not a temporary accident, but an inevitable outbreak of doubts in his heart after a long time of precipitation. Now that Naruto and Killer Bee have been treated like this for a while, as long as all the doubts and dissatisfaction in their hearts are ignited in a suitable way, it will certainly blossom very interesting fireworks, right? Chapter 6:12. On the battlefield, the ninjas of the Allied forces fought fiercely against the White Zetsu clones. With the passage of time, the special ability of the White Zetsu clones was restrained. In fact, the scales of victory were slowly tilting towards the Allied forces. The White Zetsu clones were largely destroyed. This situation also made everyone in the Allied forces full of confidence. Although this battle is difficult, the Allied forces will definitely win. Although this war is very dangerous, as long as everyone works together to fight against the Akatsuki, victory will definitely belong to them. Humans were mystical creatures. As long as they had faith, they would erupt with power that was beyond common sense. And this faith is precisely the difference between the White Zetsu army and the Allied forces. Obviously, the White Zetsu army has been performing normally, whether it is individual strength or tacit understanding between each other, they have reached the textbook level. But when facing the ninja Allied forces, the White Zetsu army immediately showed a decadent appearance, and there were even some absurd scenes of defeat. Obviously, they are the stronger side, but they are being pressed on the ground. Everyone, come on. The defeat of the White Zetsu army is already set. As long as you and I work together, the White Zetsu army is just a chicken and a dog, not worth mentioning. As the leader of the melee forces, Kitsuchi naturally saw the situation of the reversal of the battle, and his very forthright temperament at this moment made people feel particularly comfortable. Under the encouragement of Kitsuchi, the ninjas from different villages were also in high spirits at this moment. One by one, they raised their weapons and roared. Ha ha ha! Everyone, let's rush up with me. Hearing the excitement of his subordinates, Kitsuchi may also feel that the hearts of the people are useful, so he immediately began to chase after the White Zetsu army. Ridiculous! Seeing that Kitsuchi actually led his subordinates to chase after the White Zetsu army, as the leader of the long-range attack force, Shikamaru Nara's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. The White Zetsu army is different from the ordinary army. Instead of saying that they are different independent individuals, it is better to say that they are puppets with the same mind control. How can such an army be judged by common sense? Seeing that the enemy was beginning to crumble, he directly led his subordinates to chase after them without caring about anything else. War is never a game that can be led by personal guesses. War requires a comprehensive plan and rational analysis. Shikamaru Nara frowned slightly, but he quickly made a decision. Ninja Allied forces, listen to my orders. Everyone, start preparing defensive ninjutsu. Once the situation changes, we will immediately support the melee forces that are chasing the White Zetsu army. Close combat troops are an important force against Edo Tensei and even the entire Akatsuki organization. We can't afford to lose. It has to be said that although Shikamaru Nara had a lazy temperament, when he really shouldered the responsibility, he would exude a strange personality charm. Everyone who was close to Shikamaru Nara in this state couldn't help but admire Shikamaru. Although the original intention of the long-range attack team was to roam the battlefield in small teams, when needed, they would rush to the rescue of all friendly units. But when Shikamaru Nara passed down his orders, no matter which village they came from, almost all of them put down their affairs as much as possible and gathered directly. Magnet Release, Golden Dust Burial. Dust Release, Primitive World Detachment Jutsu. Just when the ninja allied forces were constantly chasing the White Zetsu army, the sound of two ninjutsu being cast directly echoed in the battlefield. Magnet Release and Dust Release. Almost all the ninjas on the battlefield began to think about who cast these two Kekkei Genkai and even Kekkei Genkai elimination, but the ninjas of the ninja allied forces didn't need to guess. The person who cast these two ninjutsu spoke again, making his voice reverberate throughout the battlefield. I am Tsunagekyu's fourth dame, Kazekage Raza. Don't be impulsive, immediately withdraw from the attack range of my golden dust burial. Otherwise, even if we don't say that everyone will be in danger, we will definitely be injured. I am Iwagakyu's second dame, Tsuchikage Kage. Don't touch my ninjutsu, dust release will decompose everything it touches. The chakra contained in the dust release is enough to kill thousands of people. After receiving the warning, although the ninjas of the allied forces were a little stunned, they still listened to the words of the two Kages. Although there were still some people who were unlucky, and their abilities weren't strong enough, and they were affected by Raza and Wuji's ninjutsu, but overall, the allied forces didn't suffer too much loss. Now both of us are under the control of Yakushi's pocket, but because Yakushi's pocket needs to control too many people, it can't completely control our consciousness. So after we are controlled to cast any ninjutsu, we will immediately tell you the corresponding method to break it. You must be careful. Although our strength has decreased, it's not something that ordinary non-Kage level ninjas can resist. Looking at the shinobi alliance formed by the various major shinobi villages in the battle, as well as some information about the current situation of the shinobi world under the control of Kabuto, although Raza found it hard to believe that the shinobi of the 5 major shinobi villages gathered together to fight against a single organization. After all, some of them were shinobi villages that he once led, and Raza wouldn't abandon this shinobi village that he deeply loved. With Raza and Wuji joining the battlefield, all the other ninjas summoned by Yakushi's Edo Tensei also joined the battle one after another. With the addition of these dead people, the battle situation that had already become clear became even more complicated and confusing. And don't know whether it was Yakushi's intentional planning or an unintentional coincidence, most of the ninjas summoned by Edo Tensei have a close relationship with the high-ranking members of the allied forces. The complicated relationship between the living and the dead brought about endless troubles. The Fourth Shinobi World War, it seems that from this moment on, all the participants of the war were in a terrible state. Chapter 613. On the main battlefield, strong people who had already passed away were constantly summoned by Kabuto using Edo Tensei. One by one, strong people who had already passed away joined the battle, which naturally made the ninjas on the battlefield and the personnel responsible for commanding the battle in the headquarters feel great pressure. It seems that the current situation on the battlefield is not so good. Uzumaki Naruto stood in the headquarters of the allied forces, watching the ninjas rushing to the battlefield from the headquarters. Naruto was also very keenly aware of the changes in the battle situation. To be honest, from the heart of Naruto, in fact, Naruto hoped that he could set foot on the battlefield and fight with Akatsuki organization. But during this period of time, all the tasks assigned to him intentionally or unintentionally avoided the conflict with Akatsuki organization. But these tasks were either to protect the evacuation of important personnel or to transport materials, and the level of each task was also not low, which made Naruto no longer have an excuse to change the task with his father. After asking Killer Bee, Hachibi Column Force, Naruto found that Killer Bee seemed to be similar to himself during this period of time. He was assigned a lot of very important tasks, but there was no conflict with Akatsuki organization. Although Naruto and Killer Bee were not so willing to guess the temperament of others, but the very similar experience of the two still made Naruto feel that something was wrong. The allied forces of ninja seems to have intentionally limited himself and Killer Bee within a certain range, letting the two of them complete the mission that can be completed by ordinary ninjas, and then directly separating the two of them from Akatsuki. So that Akatsuki organization has no way to find the two of them, Column Force, and the two of them can't meet the members of Akatsuki organization. Dad, is it because you don't want me to go up and fight with those bastards of Akatsuki organization? Such a way of doing things was too familiar to Naruto. He didn't have the slightest hint of falling out, nor did he directly tell you the truth. Through various indirect and directional guidance, he unknowingly led you to the script that the fourth Hokage, Minato, arranged for you. To be honest, Naruto doesn't like this way of doing things and attitude, but Wave Watergate is after all Naruto's father, and the leader of a village. As a person who could decide the life and death of countless people with a single thought, it was normal for Shadow to be cautious and thoughtful. Naruto has no position to condemn his father, because everything done by Wave Watergate is impeccable. Using one by one you completely can't refuse to guide you step by step, and in the end you will find that everything you do is the result expected by Watergate, and you can't find any reason to refute. Those guys of Akatsuki organization will absolutely not give up. Even if you use this way to stop me, Akatsuki organization will still use all kinds of ways to appear in front of me. Akatsuki organization is an organization full of dark souls, and almost everyone in this organization is particularly paranoid. Although Naruto didn't have any direct contact with the masked man who provoked the Fourth Shinobi World War, and called himself Uchiha Madara, but it doesn't affect Naruto to label the masked man a common label common to most of the members of Akatsuki organization. Such paranoid people can even be said to be obsessed with the wrong way is very terrible, when they recognize one thing, they will do it regardless of the consequences and the risks they may bear. So although he doesn't know what kind of method Akatsuki organization will use to suddenly appear in front of him, Naruto can be very sure that no matter what kind of inescapable net the Allied forces have arranged, Akatsuki organization will certainly appear in front of him in order to collect tailed beasts. Just when Naruto was a little bit sighing, a space ripple silently appeared behind Naruto, and Uchiha Obito's body appeared out of thin air in the jungle behind Naruto, silently like a viper preparing to capture its prey. Chakra secretly condensed in his hand, and mixed with the power of Rinnegan to create a black iron rod which has a very significant suppressive effect on chakra directly appeared in the hand of Obito. Be careful, Naruto boy. Behind you, there seems to be a bit familiar and disgusting aura. 9 tails hidden in Naruto's body, compared to Naruto's own perception ability, almost when Uchiha Obito condensed chakra iron rod and prepared to attack Naruto, 9 tails immediately warned Naruto to dodge. The familiar and disgusting feeling in 9 tails' mouth was naturally the same feeling that 9 tails himself was pulled out of the body of the 9 tails column force vortex Shina Kushina more than 10 years ago. The moment he was pulled out, 9 tails was controlled by Manjikyu Sharingan. The person who released 9 tails from the seal and then controlled him with his Manjikyu Sharingan is naturally standing behind Naruto at this moment. Although there are some changes in his attire, he still exudes an aura that 9 tails is familiar with and disgusted with. After hearing 9 tails' reminder and being vigilant for no reason, Naruto immediately displayed the 9 tails chakra mode. Golden chakra flames and black runes covered Naruto's body in an instant. And under the 9 tails chakra mode, Naruto's physical fitness and speed have increased to a level that ordinary ninja can't reach. Leaving a golden afterimage in the air, Naruto's figure has already left the place. And almost the moment after Naruto left the place where he stood just now, Uchiha Obito's figure wearing a gray-white mask, wearing a dark blue robe, and holding a black iron rod appeared in the place where Naruto stood just now. Looking at Uchiha Obito's posture, it was obvious that he was ready to attack Naruto just now. Are you that bastard Uchiha Madara? Looking at the place where he stood just now, Naruto shouted at the masked Uchiha Obito. If the person who appeared in front of Naruto was really the arrogant Uchiha Madara, maybe he would immediately attack Naruto. But after all, Obito is relying on his impression of the old and weak Uchiha Madara to act as a more mature and stable Uchiha Madara, so at this moment, Obito didn't immediately attack Naruto. Instead, he pointed his black iron rod at Naruto and said with appreciation, "Not bad, you can predict my attack in advance, and can use 9 tails chakra so skillfully. It seems that even if I kill you, you are qualified to become part of my 6 paths clone." Chapter 6:14. So that's how it is. So you want to take away the tailed beast in my body, kill me, and turn me into a weapon in your hand to suppress everyone in front of you, right? Although Obito just said it casually, Naruto still combined some of the information he knew and analyzed a lot of Uchiha Obito's own plans from Obito's words. After hearing Naruto's words, even Uchiha himself was a little surprised. After all, in the information collected by Uchiha Obito, it was pointed out that although Naruto sometimes did some ingenious things, in general, he was still like a fool who wasn't good at using his brain. But now, it seems that Naruto didn't seem to be as bad as the information said. In fact, he even hit the nail on the head. You're not as bad as the information said. Hearing Obito's words, Naruto felt the surging tailed beast chakra in his body. His eyes became dignified, then he said to Obito, "It's useless to say more, let's fight." The golden chakra instantly condensed into 2 giant hands behind Naruto. Chakra's giant hands immediately clenched into fists and attacked Obito. The fists, which were almost the size of a millstone, attacked Uchiha Obito with overwhelming and unstoppable momentum. Uchiha Obito gently pulled the black iron staff in his hand and rushed directly in the direction of Chakra's giant hands without any intention of dodging. Unlike the previous times when Uchiha Obito faced Hyuga Takuma and Killer Bee, this time Obito didn't use his Kamui to make his body invisible and avoid Naruto's attack. Instead, he clenched the black iron staff in his hand, and a layer of slightly turbid mist-like gas with unknown attributes wrapped around the black iron staff. Like a sharp blade cutting through cloth, the black iron staff also directly broke through the giant hands condensed by Nine Tails chakra. Seeing that his chakra's giant hands were broken, Naruto didn't show any excessive shock, because this giant hand attack with almost no technical content was originally used by Ming-Ri to test Uchiha Obito's strength. When Naruto analyzed the physical strength and chakra waves that burst out from Obito's body when he cut his chakra's giant hands, a result that even Naruto didn't want to believe appeared in Naruto's mind. This conclusion is not a happy one but not a worried one. But it's also a happy one. Because Naruto found that this Uchiha Madara, who was standing in front of him, and kept saying that he would extract the tailed beast from his body and then use him as a weapon, is actually weaker than him in both physical and mental aspects. A shocking thought appeared in Naruto's mind. Could it be that this Uchiha Madara, the actual leader of Akatsuki, is actually a fake? Relying on his own special ability and acting skills, he deceived and played with everyone. If the truth is really like this, then doesn't it mean that as long as I find a way to restrain the masked man's special ability, I can completely kill this fake who doesn't have any powerful strength? The surprise in Naruto's eyes was because it came suddenly, so he didn't hide it at all. Standing in front of Naruto, the masked Obito naturally saw all the emotions in Naruto's eyes. Although he didn't know what Naruto was surprised about, but he still had a faint sense of crisis in his heart. He always felt that something important about him was spied on by Naruto. Although such a reason came without any reason, Obito still chose to believe in his intuition. No matter what, today he must not let Naruto escape from his hands. After making up his mind, Uchiha Obito also rushed in the direction of Naruto with two sharp black iron sticks in his hands. Naruto himself is not the kind of ninja who is particularly good at ninjutsu. Among the ninjutsu mastered by Naruto, he can only be regarded as proficient in Rasengan and Shadow Clone Jutsu. Although many variations of Rasengan have appeared under the joint research of Naruto and Watergate, but such a ninjutsu has its own limitations after all. It's not as strange and secretive as other ninjutsu, it's only suitable for frontal combat. Controlling Nine Tails chakra to recondense two chakra hands behind him, and with a wave of the hands, Rasengan with a bit of golden halo floated directly behind Naruto. Futon, Rasengan. Behind Naruto, 6 Rasengan were suspended in the air. But Naruto did not immediately release these Rasengan in the direction of Obito. Instead, he continued to inject chakra from Nine Tails into these Rasengan. The golden chakra flame spread to the Rasengan, and in a flash, the Rasengan became as dazzling as a small sun. Watching Naruto turn the original blue Rasengan into a golden chakra flame ball, Obito suddenly felt a little vigilant in his heart. Although doing this can indeed improve the power of Rasengan, Obito always faintly felt that Naruto seems to have other plans. Go! Chakra surged, and the 6 golden flame Rasengan suspended behind Naruto directly moved under the control of Naruto. These 6 golden flame Rasengan under the control of Naruto attacked directly in the direction of Uchiha Obito with an unpredictable trajectory. To be honest, seeing Naruto fight in such a way, Uchiha Obito was not worried. Because Uchiha Obito has the almost cheating ninjutsu, Kamui, if he wants to defeat him, he can only suppress him with space ninjutsu. But according to Uchiha Obito's understanding, the only person in this ninja world who has some attainments in space ninjutsu is the Yondaime-sama Naruto, Watergate. In fact, the application of space ninjutsu is a little rough, and it is very unrealistic to suppress Uchiha Obito who has the Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, in space ninjutsu. In other words, although Uchiha Obito is not invincible in terms of personal strength, but in a battle with his own special ability, Uchiha Obito can be said to be in an invincible position. Chapter 6:15. Because of Naruto's control of the golden flame Rasengan, Obito had no way to accurately determine from which angle the 6 golden flame Rasengan will attack him. But does Obito really need to know from which angle these golden flame Rasengan will attack him? What Obito needed to do was to predict in advance when these golden flame chakra balls will attack him, and then directly integrate his body into his Kamui dimension to avoid them. So at this moment, Obito actually looked at the 6 golden flame Rasengan that were rushing towards him in a mysterious trajectory with sarcasm in his eyes. He said to Naruto in an arrogant tone, but he didn't know it. "I know what you're scheming. But Uzumaki Naruto, I still want to tell you a truth that even a 3-year-old child knows, in the face of absolute strength, any calculation is meaningless. Even if you can borrow the chakra of 9 tails, so what? Even if your research on Rasengan is profound, so what? In front of me, you can only get one thing, and that is failure." After activating Kamui, Obito's body instantly became full of an illusory aura. At this moment, although the golden flame Rasengan was constantly changing in a mysterious trajectory, after all, it didn't reach the expected position of Naruto, so the dispersion was not so obvious. Seeing Obito suddenly rushing towards himself, Naruto didn't panic at all. He directly controlled the 6 golden flame Rasengan to attack Uchiha's head, heart, and limbs. But after these Rasengan touched Obito's body, they directly penetrated his body, just like all the previous attacks that tried to attack Obito. However, Naruto didn't seem to lose his mind because his golden flame Rasengan didn't work. Instead, he directly controlled the Rasengan that directly penetrated Obito's body and rushed towards the sky. Under the control of Naruto, the 6 Rasengan directly collided with each other at the same time. It was already late at night, and the 6 Rasengan burning with golden flame Rasengan were already very conspicuous when they flew into the sky. When the 6 golden flame Rasengan containing a lot of chakra collided with each other, the huge explosion of energy also caused a great impact. The golden flame spread directly from the place where the 6 Rasengan collided as the center. It was as if a golden cloud suddenly appeared in the dark sky, dazzling and eye-catching. Even the bright and huge full moon before could only hide its existence next to the golden flame cloud at this moment. So that's how it is, your attack is just a cover, your real idea is to inform other ninjas to summon more ninjas to fight me? Looking at Naruto, who was wrapped in the golden flame chakra raiment, Uchiha Obito said slowly with a little appreciation. Although he was not afraid of an increase in the number of enemies, the more people he had to fight, the more likely it was that they would hurt him while he was casting his Kamui ability. Not to mention, if Hatake Kakashi, whose ability originated from the same source as his, came to his aid, it was very likely that he would be hindered. Now, after all, the Jubi has not been resurrected, and Obito believes that his strength is not enough to fight so many ninjas without exposing his true identity. If he can win, he will fight, if he can't win, he will say some harsh words and then take the opportunity to leave. This has always been Obito's attitude, and it is this cautious attitude, coupled with Obito's control of people's hearts, that Obito can manage the name Uchiha Madara so perfectly. Now such a name can't be abandoned so easily, so Obito's heart at this moment has already sprouted the idea of retreating. However, Obito is still very concerned about what Naruto found on his body just now, or what is wrong with him. If he leaves directly, will Naruto tell Minato Watergate about what he found on his body? After all, Naruto's identity is different from ordinary ninjas, the 9 tails, column force, and the son of Hokage, so every word Naruto says will be taken seriously. If Naruto directly reports his prediction of Uchiha Obito's strength to the Allied Ninja Command, then after hearing such news, although they can't immediately judge the accuracy of the news, at least Hokage and Kazekage, who have a very close relationship with Naruto, will definitely believe in Naruto's judgment. If the situation really becomes like this, then the situation of the battlefield will definitely have some unexpected changes. The current battlefield itself is a certain distance from Obito's expectations to a certain extent. If there is any change outside of his control, it will undoubtedly cause a great obstacle to Obito's ultimate goal, the Eye of the Moon project. The Eye of the Moon project itself is the goal of Uchiha Obito's struggle for decades. Obito gave up a lot of things for this project, and even threw his soul into the darkness, doing a lot of things against his own heart. After paying so much, it is really difficult for Obito to accept the failure of the Eye of the Moon project. When Naruto entered the Nine Tails chakra mode, he can keenly perceive the kindness and malice of others. At this moment, the evil intention of killing and the idea of temporary retreat came one after another in Uchiha Obito's body. But in the end, the evil intention of killing still took the dominant position. Sure enough, a battle can't be avoided. The reason why Naruto adopted such a strategy is in fact, hoping to put pressure on Obito's heart, so that Obito will have some self-awareness and directly retreat. After all, at Naruto's level of strength, as long as he starts to fight with all his strength, every move will cause a great impression. The 6 golden flame Rasengan that Naruto used casually before could directly produce a golden flame that covered half of the sky and covered the brilliance of the moon. But for Naruto, such an attack wasn't much different from a casual punch. In Naruto's heart, he hoped that Uchiha Obito can retreat by himself and leave the battle on the battlefield, but now it seems that this expectation is obviously in vain. Chapter 6:16. Although the outcome was not the same as what he expected, after all, Obito is an enemy that he can't avoid, and he will encounter such a situation sooner or later, won't he? But when Naruto's heart was really ready to fight Uchiha Obito, he finally once again examined the comparison of strength between himself and Uchiha Obito. Originally, Naruto thought that Uchiha Obito was an existence that surpassed him in all aspects, but through the contact just now, Naruto has discovered that Uchiha Obito, the masked man who called himself Uchiha Madara, is actually not a super powerhouse that he can't resist at all. On the contrary, Uchiha Obito's physical fitness and chakra storage are not as good as him. After discovering this, Naruto actually found some opportunities to win. As long as he can find a way to deal with Uchiha Obito's strange space ability, then Naruto will be able to defeat Uchiha Obito. At this moment, Uchiha Obito was fighting Naruto with the intention of leaving Naruto here, but Naruto also faintly hoped that he can defeat Uchiha Obito here, and then directly kill this dangerous character who caused the 4th Shinobi World War. At the same time, Naruto and Obito's eyes showed the light of excitement and expectation for the battle. Almost at the same time, Naruto directly used Nine Tails' chakra mode to cast the body flicker technique and disappeared, and Uchiha Obito also used his Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, to directly escape into the Kamui space. The entire battlefield seemed to have completely disappeared at this moment, but every very short period of time, Naruto and Obito's figures would appear in a certain corner of the battlefield. And the moment the two figures appeared, they would immediately attack each other. The Rasengan in Naruto's hand and the black iron rod in Obito's hand collided again and again, but after the collision, Naruto and Obito seemed to have a tacit understanding and disappeared again to prepare for the next collision. To be honest, the repeated collisions also consumed a lot of chakra and physical strength of Naruto and Obito. Because Obito used Mangekyo Dojutsu from his bloodline, the consumption of chakra and physical strength was much less than that of Naruto. Although Mangekyo Sharingan's Dojutsu will cause the caster to lose his light, most of Obito's body was cloned from first Hokage Senju Takuma's cells, so the consumption of Mangekyo Sharingan's power is almost negligible. Naruto himself is an Uzumaki, and has an extremely strong body and a huge amount of chakra storage. And at this moment, Naruto has almost unlimited chakra with the help of Nine Tails in his body. Therefore, Naruto and Obito have actually fallen into a battle of attrition at the moment. It's actually very simple to win, as long as the opponent's physical strength or chakra is exhausted. But for Naruto, there is still an advantage. After all, the place where the two of them are fighting is very close to the headquarters of the Allied Ninja Army. Although the movement of the two of them isn't earth-shattering, the golden flame cloud that spread over half of the sky and the powerful chakra fluctuation coming from here has already provided coordinates for the ninjas of the allied ninja army. It won't be long before the ninja allied forces will definitely send strong people to support Naruto. Among the ninjas who will come to support Naruto, it is very likely that Minato Watergate and Hatake Kakashi will be among them. After all, one of them is Uzumaki Naruto's father, and the other is Uzumaki Naruto's instructor, and for Obito, these two people are very troublesome people for him. His former teacher and former comrade in arms are exactly the people who can find and even restrain his shortcomings. Hatake Kakashi also has Manjikyu Sharingan, and even the name of his dojutsu is the same as Obito's dojutsu. Not to mention Minato Watergate, during the Third Shinobi World War, he developed the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and improved it by Obito, and directly gained the name Golden Flash in the Shinobi World War, and later became the fourth Hokage of the Woodleaf Village in the Land of Fire. Once these two people really come, then Obito will have to fight against these three people, including Naruto, and the pressure will be too great. On one side of the battlefield, in a place that Obito couldn't see, a figure slowly appeared there. Wearing a white robe, it looked extremely bright and pure under the moonlight. A complicated blood-red pattern representing the blood cloth pavilion was delicately embroidered on the edge of the robe with silk thread, and on the back of the neck of this white robe, there was a red face and white handle fan pattern that was exactly the same as the masked Uchiha Obito's. The person who came had slightly long black hair, sword-like eyebrows, and a cold expression, and a silver long sword was directly in his hand. Huh! Uchiha Madara? Sasuke, who was wearing a white robe, poured chakra into his eyes, and a pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan that surpassed Manjikyu Sharingan appeared in Sasuke's eye sockets. Before Sasuke left the Blood Cloak Pavilion, his father, Uchiha Fugaku, had been replanted with a pair of ordinary eyes. After seeing that his father had fully recovered, Sasuke also volunteered to go directly to the battlefield to do his part for the Blood Cloak Pavilion. Nangongja naturally knew that Sasuke was actually worried that his close friend, Uzumaki Naruto, would be captured by Akatsuki, but Naruto also had a very special meaning for Nangongja. After all, Nangongja also watched Naruto grow up little by little, and he also did his duty as a teacher when Naruto was still young. Such a kind of friendship was not easy to erase. During the time Uchiha Sasuke was in the Blood Cloth Pavilion, in addition to waiting for his father's eyes to recover, he also had a preliminary mastery of the power brought by the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Even in a practice with Nangongja, Nangongja could only defeat Sasuke by using natural chakra. Such a pitiful creature who only knows how to dodge and only succumb to the darkness, if he is really the strongest person in our Uchiha clan in modern times, it's really sad. Chapter 6:17. On the battlefield, both Uchiha Obito and Uzumaki Naruto raised their perception ability to the limit. After all, the battle between Uchiha Obito and Naruto was actually a competition to see who would make a huge mistake first, and who would consume their stamina or chakra first. Any small mistake could cause them to fall into an irreversible situation. The two of them couldn't afford to relax at all. But at this moment, Uchiha Obito's heart suddenly had a touch of instinctive vigilance. Even animals have the ability to foresee danger almost like a sixth sense, not to mention Uchiha Obito, who has transplanted a Rinnegan and Senju Takuma cells in his body. When he collided with Naruto again, Obito didn't use the black iron rod in his hand to collide with Naruto's Rasengan like before. At this moment, Obito suddenly scattered the Six Paths aura wrapped around the iron rod in his hand, and collided with the Rasengan with the black iron rod itself. The result was needless to say, the power of the Rasengan completely broke out, but Uchiha Obito himself was ready to meet the impact. With the help of Rasengan's powerful force, he quickly retreated backward. On the contrary, Naruto was stunned by the sudden damage he caused. What the hell is going on? Naruto looked at Uchiha Obito with a little doubt, but as a qualified ninja, Naruto immediately reacted. No matter what the reason is, Uchiha Obito completely endured his attack. Since his attack has already affected Uchiha Obito's body, even if all this is within Uchiha Obito's expectation, his body will inevitably have temporary weakness and chakra disorder because of the huge force of the Rasengan. And this situation is a huge advantage for Naruto. As long as Naruto can hit Uchiha Obito, who can't make his body hollow because of the chakra disorder, doesn't it mean that his side has won the battle? Activating the Nine Tails chakra in his body, Naruto used the body flicker technique that exceeded the limit. Naruto's figure almost instantly appeared beside Uchiha Obito, but obviously, Uchiha Obito's recovery speed is beyond Naruto's imagination. Seeing Naruto suddenly appear beside him, Uchiha Obito immediately controlled his body to hollow, making Naruto's attack directly invalid. Sure enough. Is the troublesome guy coming? Obito directly ignored Naruto, who was standing on his side, and looked into the depths of the forest. Seeing that Obito directly ignored his existence, Naruto's heart couldn't help but become angry. After all, Obito was still fighting with him so seriously just now, but now he completely ignored him. Isn't this like playing with him? He waved his fist at Uchiha Obito's figure again and again, but he still helplessly passed through Uchiha Obito's body again and again. Sure enough, even if he found out that Uchiha Obito is actually weaker than himself, but without the means to restrain his strange space ability, is he still so powerless? You bastard! Looking at Uchiha Obito, Naruto shouted loudly. What's the emotion that can trigger the most anger in a person's heart? Without a doubt, it's the perception that you are powerless. This kind of anger is not only for the person standing opposite you, but also for yourself. Such a double anger, once it starts burning, it won't be so easy to stop. Even in Naruto's heart, he knows very well that he must not lose his mind at this time, but the flame of anger directly burned Naruto from the inside out. Sure enough, are you still the same idiot as before? A slightly cold voice appeared in Naruto's ears. Such a voice was like a clear spring water gathered from ice and snow, directly extinguishing the raging flame burning in Naruto's heart. Even Obito, who has been attacking Uchiha, also stopped. Naruto completely ignored Uchiha Obito at this moment. Instead, he turned his head and looked around, as if trying to find a very familiar figure. Finally, Naruto's line of sight and Uchiha Obito's line of sight fell on the same place. At the foot of the forest, a purple figure stood so tall in the forest. There was no way for the tall trees to hide this huge purple figure. Instead, it made this figure even bigger. Susanoo. Complete form. The figure was almost as huge as a mountain. The purple figure was wearing a heavy purple plate armor, wearing a crow tengu mask, a pair of wings folded behind Susanoo's back, and two swords that looked simple and full of majesty were hanging by Susanoo's waist. At this moment, Susanoo truly corresponded to its name, and stood between the heavens and the earth like a god that had descended to earth. With his enhanced eyesight because of entering the Nine Tails chakra mode, Naruto vaguely saw Sasuke's figure on the huge Susanoo's chest. Sasuke put his hand on his chest and began to print. Susanoo, who was outside, also raised its huge hands and made a hand seal. It looked exactly like Sasuke. Susanoo's Katan's Great Fireball Jutsu. The complete form of Susanoo can cooperate with the person who summoned it to perform ninjutsu, and the power of ninjutsu can be greatly increased. At this moment, Sasuke began to perform ninjutsu with this ability. The original C-level Great Fireball Jutsu, after being blessed by Susanoo, now has the power of a B-level ninjutsu, and the coverage is also very large. Looking at the flames rushing towards them, Naruto and Uchiha Obito also made their own reactions. Body Flicker Jutsu. With the blessing of Nine Tails Chakra, Naruto's figure directly flashed out of the attack range of Great Fireball Jutsu. Katan Storm Dance Reverse. Obito urged his Mangekyo Sharingan to once again use Kamui, and all the flames around him were absorbed into his Kamui space. Chapter 618. Although the range attack ninjutsu that Sasuke used just now actually covered him, Uzumaki Naruto, who was in the Nine Tails chakra mode at this moment, could distinguish a person's kindness and malice, and Sasuke was full of kindness. Although his heart was full of joy of reunion, the strange way of getting along between Naruto and Sasuke still made it impossible for Naruto to directly express his joy of meeting him again. Instead, he said to Sasuke with a bit of fake anger and boredom, "You stoic face, who exactly are you calling an idiot?" Hearing the familiar sarcasm from Naruto, Sasuke's heart was also full of nostalgia. In the past, he, Naruto, and Sakura, didn't they walk forward step by step? But because of the pursuit of strength, he gradually alienated these two people who opened their hearts to him. After experiencing so many things, in fact, Sasuke is no longer as paranoid as he was when he was a child. For the current Sasuke, although he still pursues powerful strength, he is not as blind and desperate as before. Sasuke has also grown a lot, and gradually put his eyes on the things around him. The most obvious thing is that Sasuke no longer escapes from the fetters between himself and Naruto, Sakura, and even more people, but chose to directly face his inner feelings. Since he cherishes them so much, why should he deliberately alienate them? I'm no longer a weak child. With the power I have now, I can be regarded as a person standing at the top of the ninja world. So why don't I do my best to protect these things that I cherish? Of course it's you, you idiot. Don't you know how to use your brain when fighting? Controlling Susanoo, Sasuke and the huge Susanoo rose into the air together, and directly spread the wings behind them and flew towards the place where Naruto and Obito were. Although high in the sky, Sasuke's voice was still very obvious in Naruto's ears. You know that you have no way to deal with the opponent's ability, but you still want to keep the opponent here. At the beginning, you knew how to signal others for help, but at this time, you attacked the enemy like a crazy beast. Saying that you are an idiot is already praising you. After all, you were an idiot before. Being rebuked by Naruto, Sasuke naturally wouldn't be silent, but he also said to Naruto in a sharp tone. And from Sasuke's words, it seems that Sasuke was able to find this battlefield because he saw the flame cloud burst out from Naruto's golden flame Rasengan. Hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto directly jumped, but Sasuke was controlling Susanoo to fly in the sky at this moment, making it difficult for Naruto to realize the idea of fighting a war of words. Looking at the interaction between Sasuke and Naruto, Obito even felt that he had become an outsider. He could only look at Sasuke and Naruto, who seemed to dislike each other but were full of flashbangs. Really envious, no, hateful. Fortunately, at this moment, Naruto and Sasuke still remembered that there was an enemy here. After the two ridiculed each other like this, they also turned their attention to Uchiha Obito. With eternal Manjikyu Sharingan beyond Obito's Manjikyu Sharingan level, Sasuke easily saw through Obito's Manjikyu Sharingan. It was just a Manjikyu Sharingan with the ability to communicate space, but in Obito's body, there was a very pure Uchiha clan bloodline, and the gap between his generation and the current generation was not so big. Although he couldn't accurately judge the age and identity of Uchiha Obito, he was definitely not a person of Uchiha Madara's era. A person who hides his head and shows his tail is not worthy of the name of Uchiha. I, Uchiha Sasuke, the current Uchiha clan head, hereby announce that you are deprived of all rights as the Uchiha clan. The glory of the Uchiha clan will never be allowed to be tarnished by a rat like you. Yes, before leaving the Blood Cloak Pavilion, Sasuke had been officially awarded the title of Uchiha clan head by his father, Uchiha Fugaku, although there were only a few people left in the Uchiha clan at this moment. However, Uchiha Fugaku still held a ceremony worthy of the status of Uchiha clan with the help of Nangongja. At this moment, Uchiha Sasuke was the head of the Uchiha clan. As the head of the Uchiha clan, Sasuke naturally also has the right to expel people from the Uchiha clan and deprive them of their surname. For a long time, Obito thought that he didn't care about his identity as a member of the Uchiha clan. After all, Obito didn't show such amazing talent when he was a child, and the clan's attitude towards Obito was very dull and even indifferent. But when Sasuke really said that he was going to deprive him of his surname, Obito's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. His parents and grandparents were all members of the Uchiha clan. At this moment, he was deprived of the Uchiha surname by the head of the clan, which also means that he no longer has any relationship with his parents and grandparents that can be recognized by the public. So what? The name of Uchiha has long been dispensable to me. Although there was inevitably a touch of sadness in his heart, Obito didn't want to show it in front of Naruto and Sasuke. Instead, he continued to force himself to speak to Naruto and Sasuke in an almost indifferent tone. Looking at Obito's appearance, Sasuke's heart was slightly disappointed. Has he really forgotten about the pride of the Uchiha clan? Slowly unsheathing the silver long sword in his hand, Sasuke's figure also disappeared directly into Susanoo. In a flash, Sasuke's figure directly appeared behind Obito, and the long sword in his hand gently cut off the Uchiha clan tattoo on Obito's navy blue robe. In this case, you no longer have the right to keep this Uchiha clan tattoo and weapon that symbolizes the Uchiha clan. With that, Sasuke directly grabbed the Uchiha clan's weapon that Obito had been carrying on his back, Uchiha round fan in his hand. Chapter 619. When Obito saw that Sasuke appeared directly behind him and took away the Uchiha clan emblem and Uchiha round fan at a speed that he couldn't react to, Obito's heart became alert. Obito activated his hollow ability to the highest level, but even so, Uchiha Obito still couldn't feel safe. Sure enough, Manjikyu Sharingan alone can't fight against Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which is a level higher than my own. Obviously, when Sasuke suddenly appeared behind him and took away his weapon and Uchiha clan emblem, Obito actually fell into a brief sluggish state. Such a sluggish state came suddenly and unreasonably. This situation can only remind Obito of a ninja's attack method, Genjutsu. Uchiha clan's Sharingan itself has the special ability of Genjutsu I, and when Sharingan evolved to the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, such Genjutsu I has naturally been greatly improved. Although he can't be 100% sure, Sasuke probably inadvertently used Genjutsu I on him just now. In the past, Obito once used the Genjutsu I of his Manjikyu Sharingan to control the 4th generation Mizukage of the Mist Village, but he didn't expect that Genjutsu would be suppressed by the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which is a level higher than his Manjikyu Sharingan. Although he lost his weapon and his Uchiha clan's name, Obito had no intention of getting back at them at this moment. After all, Naruto, who has superior physical fitness and chakra reserves, and Uchiha Sasuke, who has surpassed him in Sharingan level, have joined forces against him at this moment. If he continues to fight with them, Obito really felt that it would be difficult for him to win, and it was even likely that he would suffer some injuries. Now is not the time for us to fight. Let's meet again when the final battle begins. Looking at Sasuke and Naruto, Uchiha forced himself to look more mysterious and said to Naruto and Sasuke. Hearing Uchiha Obito's contemptuous tone, Naruto couldn't hold back his temper any longer. He immediately controlled the Nine Tails chakra to condense chakra palm behind him, and prepared to use Rasengan to attack Obito again. But at this moment, Naruto wasn't alone here. Beside Naruto was Uchiha Sasuke, who had always been very calm in battle. Sasuke directly stretched out his arm and blocked Naruto behind him. Now is indeed not the time to fight Uchiha Obito directly. After all, for the current ninja allied forces, Uchiha Obito is still a person who can judge their strategic intentions. If Sasuke and Naruto really do their best to keep Uchiha Obito here, what will the result be? It's nothing more than Akatsuki without a leader, and the conflict between Black Zetsu and Kabuto will be ignited again. At that time, Akatsuki's two forces will stir up a bloody storm in the ninja world. It's simply unimaginable. Naruto, whether he's bluffing or really has something to rely on, now is not a good time for us to fight him. At this moment, the front battlefield has fallen into an extremely anxious situation, and a large number of strong people who have died are fighting with the ninja allied forces. Looking at Obito's body slowly integrated into Kamui space and disappeared directly. Sasuke briefly explained the information he obtained from the front battlefield to Naruto, and then looked at Naruto with a very serious expression. War is not a collision of personal strength, nor is it a game that can be won directly by perfect strategy. If you want to win the war and make the ninja world peaceful, what you need the most is not the strength of the body, but the strength of everyone's heart. The human heart is the most magnificent treasure created by heaven and earth, and such a treasure naturally contains the most powerful strength. Now what the ninja world needs is not only the victory of the war, but also the elimination of estrangement from the top and the bottom. I know that I don't have the ability to open people's hearts like this, but you do. You are the warm sun in the deep darkness, shining the darkness in everyone's heart. If there is really someone in this world who can bring peace, in fact, the most likely person is you. Sasuke, who has never been so good at expressing his heart, at this moment, suddenly said so many encouraging words to Naruto, and even said that he was not Naruto. Such a change made Naruto somewhat unexpected. If it wasn't for his chakra perception telling him over and over again that the person standing in front of him was Uchiha Sasuke, who had been bickering with him since childhood, Naruto would have started to attack this Uchiha Sasuke, who was completely different from his impression. Uchiha Sasuke has learned to be humble, which is the most impossible thing Naruto has ever heard. That. I say, are you really the Uchiha Sasuke I know? Naruto looked at Sasuke, and said to Sasuke tentatively. Hearing Naruto's words, Sasuke's face couldn't help but show a smile, and the silver sword in his hand directly hit Naruto's head with the scabbard. I say, are you really a fool? Obviously, he didn't say anything good, but Naruto was completely sluggish. Sasuke, the Uchiha Sasuke I know, what kind of expression is on his face now? Is Sasuke smiling at the moment? Although it's just a shallow smile, but after knowing Sasuke for so long, this is almost the most brilliant smile Naruto has seen from Sasuke. Naruto, people always have to grow up. Although in many times, we have experienced a lot of pain, but these pains are also the best nourishment for our growth. Originally, I had been resisting and avoiding this kind of pain. But now I understand that there are a lot of things that can't be avoided. Only when you really decide to face them, can you be regarded as a qualified ninja, a qualified man. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.